£6 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Vegetarians now have a greater desire to wield power more than their meat-eating counterparts. I mean, you like a sausage, don't you, Biggins?
I like a sausage, but I have gone off meat per se, funnily enough, as I'm getting older. I think there are, you know, it takes a lot of eating a piece of meat, if you pardon the expression.
And the older you get, the more you find that it takes a lot of meat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I must admit, I have more of a conscience about eating meat as I get older.
Yeah.
And that's a fondness of animals brings that. And if you ever go on Instagram and you look at cows and horses and pigs,
they're wonderful.
They're all affectionate and incredible.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And there we are, putting it into our mouths and eating it.
What do you think about the move to enforce vegetarianism on people, though? Because especially in schools and some universities, there's this trend for Meat-Free Monday, where there's this enforced absence of meat on children.
I think it's ridiculous. Let kids do what they want, to be honest with. Within reason, obviously, a healthy diet, da-da-da-da-da. But no, I think, you know, I don't eat meat, the husband eats meat. It's not an issue. Eat what you want. But I think that the fact that they're trying to force this into schools, look, let kids experiment, give them a vegetarian option.
Yes,
let them
all
see
schools do that.
Just options.
It has just become political, and also there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I know children are often told that eating meat is terrible for the environment, but importing avocados thousands of miles is also terrible for the environment.
But also, I mean, a lot of vegetarian meals, are certainly processed vegetarian meals, have got a load of salt and fat and sugar in them, so they're actually worse for you than eating a lean piece of meat.
I think the tide is turning now, because the new trend amongst young people, particularly young men, is protein. Chicken, breasts, tuna. That's the new trend, to get as much protein in them as possible. It's very difficult to do when you're vegetarian.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, it is 3 o'clock. Welcome to Martin Daubney's show with me, Nana Acquia, on GB News. We are broadcasting live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. So coming up, there are fresh warnings that the police are overstretched and may be pushed to breaking point over the growing numbers of protests against migrant hotels. Could we face a summer of chaos? Then ex-Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana have announced details of their newly formed political party. Just how damaging to the Labour Party will this new group be? And what is it even called? Your party? No, it's not your party. Working title. The countdown is also on to Donald Trump's arrival in Scotland tomorrow. Is the excitement building in your household? We'll cross live there. Protests are anticipated. And the UN has opened the door to Britain being sued over its historic contribution to climate change. But is the UK seriously the country that should be targeted and not the likes of China and India? And Harry and Meghan, you know how I love them. $100 million Netflix deal will now not be renewed. What a surprise. Just what might this fresh uncertainty mean for the future of the Sussexes? All of that coming up in the next hour. Oh, you know how I love the Sussexes. We'll get stuck right into that one. I'm looking forward to that. Some of your thoughts and post your comments at gbnews.com/your say on all the topics that we're discussing. I'd love to hear your views. But now, it's time for your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Nana. Good afternoon to you. Our headlines. The Prime Minister and his Indian counterpart have hailed an historic day after signing a free trade deal worth £6 billion to the British economy. Under the agreement, it will be cheaper to export cars and whisky to India and Indian textiles and jewellery to the UK. Now, the deal, which took nearly 3.5 years to agree, also sets out a plan to tackle illegal migration and work more closely on defence, climate and health. Mr Modi says they're writing a new chapter in the UK and India's shared history. Sir Keir Starmer described it as the most significant deal since Brexit, marking a step change in relations between the countries.
This is a historic day a landmark moment for both of our countries. The UK-India deal is now signed, sealed, and ready to be delivered. So it's a real pleasure to welcome you.
A mother and her 2 children who were found dead have been named as a police investigation into their deaths continues. Vanessa White, her son James and her daughter Sarah died following a shooting in County Fermanagh. A 4th person, a man, remains in a serious condition in hospital after the incident near Maguire's Bridge. Police say all 4 members of the same household suffered gunshot wounds. The number of shoplifting offences recorded by police in England and Wales has climbed to a record high. More than 530,000 offences were logged last year, up 20% from 2023 to 24, and the highest total since current police recording practices began in 2002. Theft from person offences also remained at record levels. That's up 15% from the previous 12 months. The number of knife crime offences fell by 1% year on year. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper reacted to the figures.
Well, the figures show serious violence is down and also knife crime falling for the first time for a long time. And there has been a 4-year trend of increasing shop theft and street theft, which reflects the decimation of neighbourhood policing under the previous Conservative government. But that's why we're putting 3,000 more neighbourhood police on the streets this year, and why 500 towns will get additional neighbourhood patrols this summer, so we can target those crimes that really matter to communities.
Now, recent disorder in Essex was a signal flare of rising unrest, which exposes cracks in police forces across the country. That's according to the head of a police body. There's been a series of demonstrations outside the Bell Hotel in Epping since an asylum seeker was charged with sexual assault. Now, he denies those allegations. The chairman of the Police Federation, Tiff Lynch, says the disorder was not just a troubling one-off. It comes as Essex Police issued a dispersal order in Epping that's in place from 2 o'clock this afternoon, covering the town centre and transport hubs. Yesterday, the police force denied that it had bussed counter-demonstrators to and from a protest outside that hotel last week, saying while it did escort some people away, any claims about deliberate use of counter-protesters are categorically wrong. 10 anti-migrant demonstrators have been arrested on charges of disorder. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is understood to have told hospital leaders, "We have your backs," ahead of a 5-day strike by resident doctors. The public are being urged to keep coming forward for NHS care during the walkout, which will begin tomorrow at 7 a.m. NHS England boss Sir Jim Mackey said the health service would be much more resistant to the demands of the British Medical Association. Now, thousands are expected to join the strike, the 12th by resident doctors, formerly known as junior doctors, since March 2023. The government is deeply committed to recognising a Palestinian state. That's according to Cabinet Minister Jonathan Reynolds. His comments come as the head of the World Health Organization says Gaza is suffering from a man-made mass starvation, accusing Israel of a blockade on aid to the enclave. At a UN Security Council meeting, the UK's representative to the UN, Dame Barbara Woodward, described the Israeli aid system as inhumane, ineffective, dangerous and fuelling instability. Israel's dismissed reports of numerous Palestinian deaths as a result of malnutrition as propaganda. And Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana have shared details of their newly formed political party, saying real change is coming. Mr Corbyn, the MP for Islington North, has said the system is rigged, and he's called for mass redistribution of wealth and power. An inaugural conference will take place for members to decide the party's direction, the model of leadership and the policies that are needed to transform society. There's your headlines. More to come a little bit later.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Quick look at the markets. The pound buys you $1.35 and €1.15. The price of gold is £2,485 and 23 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is trading at 9,145 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Thank you, Aaron. Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 8 minutes after 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Acquia. I'm in for Martin Daubney. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. Now, the Police Federation, which represents rank and file officers, have claimed that policing is not prepared for a repeat of last summer's protest. Now, as officers are deployed to keep the peace outside a four-star hotel in London, four-star hotel, get that is reportedly preparing to welcome asylum seekers. I mean, some of us can only afford 2 or 3-star, 4-star, but never mind. The rise in tensions isn't helpful by a Daily Mail exclusive that reveals thousands of migrants are using taxpayer-funded handouts at casinos and betting shops. So is this the start of a summer of unrest? Well, joining me now, former Detective Chief Inspector at the Met Police, Peter Kirkham. Peter, thank you very much for joining me. Now, last summer, I actually think that you ain't seen nothing yet. And that's just last summer, I think, whilst that was discontent, I fear that this summer will be far worse. And the reason being that more and more migrant hotels appear to be opening up and people are getting vocal about their feelings about the whole system and the mass migration that is occurring in this country.
I'm not sure whether it's right that more and more migrant hotels are opening up. There are certainly different venues being used maybe than we've used before. That might explain why new ones have come online. But according to the statistics being released, the list of people needing to be accommodated is slowly beginning to turn around and fall.
Really? I thought the numbers of migrants were up at least 50% on last year. So therefore, we would need to house them somewhere. And the Labour government did promise to end the use of migrant hotels, and they certainly haven't done that.
No, I think that was time constrained with, I think it was 2028 or 2029, they said they'd end the use of the migrant hotels. You've got the improvements they have made to the Home Office processing time and the number of removals at one end of the equation, and at the other end of the equation, the numbers coming in, which, as you say, are at a high level. I'm not sure anyone's actually done the detailed analysis to work out exactly how many are in the queue at this moment in time. But certainly the government seem to be trying to take moves to address that. As for whether there's going to be a summer of discontent, I think that's inevitable if people go on spreading untruths around the situation and making exaggerated claims about the situation.
What do you mean spreading untruths? People are rightly allowed to protest. Nobody likes violent protest. That's not acceptable. But people are allowed to peacefully protest outside a hotel if they are not happy with the situation, in particular when we are hearing that taxpayers' money is being used by some of those who are coming here seeking asylum to gamble in casinos and betting shops.
That would be an example, I guess.
What, false information?
The bland statement that they use the money provided by the taxpayer for betting shops and casinos. I'm sure it applies to a few.
Yeah, it does. I'm applying it to a few.
It doesn't apply to all.
Yes, but I can apply it to a few. I'm applying it to a few. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it was 6,000 transactions that they thought were potentially made in that manner. So I'm just saying that it's as exacerbated. You don't think it's exacerbated by reports that some migrants are using some of taxpayers' money in betting shops and casinos? You don't think that exacerbates the situation?
It does, and especially when it's
that's the point I'm making.
Or taken out of context.
I don't think that even if it had been 50 or 200, that people would be happy with it. So I'm saying that. Do you not think?
But
I don't think it makes a difference.
The actual facts, rather than statements that don't provide the context, then at least we'll know that they have the proper facts on which they make their judgment.
So in what context?
We see it in all areas.
In what context? I'm struggling to find out in what context me pointing out that some of taxpayers' money is being used by many who are seeking asylum to put into to place bets on things in betting shops and casinos, which is factually correct. I'm struggling to see how that, where there's an issue with that. I'm just pointing out something that has been reported.
The issue is when people believe it, for whatever reason, they believe it as meaning everybody's doing it. They're all at it. That's where
nobody thinks everyone's doing it. I think I think that's not fair on the British public.
But others do.
Well, I don't think so. I think people are reasonable, but they're not happy with even a fraction of that, because at the end of the day, we are supposed to be caring and catering for people who are supposedly seeking asylum because they could be persecuted from wherever it is they've come from, and taxpayers feel like they're being taken advantage of, and that is why there is this issue.
In that case, they should press their politicians to put rules that are given out with the money that say what you can spend it on. You can or can't spend it on alcohol. You can or can't spend it on cigarettes. You can or can't spend it on vapes. You can or can't spend it in a gambling shop. Yeah, I mean, there are no specific rules so far as I'm aware at the moment, and therefore you can hardly criticise people for living a life that they choose to live, where they have got precious little else to do, waiting an eternity for the Home Office to decide their claims, when we're saying we don't allow them to work.
Well, but they can't work because we don't know who they are and we don't know enough about their backstory to just put them in a job. That wouldn't be right to the British employers, because they would want the person to be fully vetted. So whilst someone is seeking asylum, you can't just put them in a job. You don't know what they are capable of. They may be very nice, and I'm sure a lot of them are, but there are also those who will seek to be disruptive and may have criminal records. So you can't just put them straight into work. And also that would be another pull factor, wouldn't it? Which wouldn't be wise.
There are some that we know nothing about, but the majority of them we know quite a lot about, if not everything about. We know there are hospital surgeons or whatever they might be in amongst those numbers somewhere, and so it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility for employers to make a decision, an informed decision, about employing or not employing a particular individual.
Well, if we know a lot about most of them, then you seem to think that then we'd be ahead of the backlog. But we have a backlog because a lot of the claims haven't been processed, which means that they haven't fully found out the information about the people who are seeking asylum, which is why there's a big backlog.
Make that connection.
Well, so you don't think that the reason why people are in a backlog is because their claims are being processed? And that processing is finding out about who that asylum seeker is and where they've come from, whether it's a legitimate claim or not?
There's a lot more to know about them than their background.
Well, whether the claim is legitimate or not, which is why you wouldn't give them a job immediately.
A refugee claim, you need to know an awful lot more than just the background of the individual.
Well, absolutely.
But, you can't have it both ways. You can't say they're sitting in taxpayer handouts doing nothing and, well, we can't allow them to work. You can't have it both ways.
That's not having it both ways. That's having it neither way. Let's be truthful about that. While someone is seeking asylum, while someone is seeking, well, let me say what I'm saying. You don't need to say what I'm saying. Let me say.
Somebody can claim asylum in this country. I'm afraid that's not.
How did you? Literally. I love the way that you're telling me what I'm saying. I've never used those words at all. You've just literally surmised something that has literally come out of nowhere. What I'm saying is people who've come here to seek asylum shouldn't be put straight into work because we don't know enough about them. Therefore, once the claim has been... Let me finish. I never said that at all either. Another supposition. I'm saying that that money should not be allowed to be spent in casinos and betting shops, which is apparently where some of it's being spent. And I'm saying that the British public are rightly frustrated, as that has been proven to be the case on numerous occasions.
How many people are doing that? What proportion of the amount of money is spent in casinos and betting shops?
Well, do you know what? I don't even think the Home Office know that. I don't even think the Home Office know all of that. In fact, they don't even know. Most of the people here, they don't even know anything about them because they're languishing whilst being processed, which I think is totally wrong. I don't think it should take so long for the claim to be processed. I think it should be days rather than months, years and weeks. And at that point, you can make a determination as to what to do. I don't think you should also be allowing people... It's not a case of fault, is it? But it's more to do with the fact that the government are absolutely at fault with this, and it's horrendous. And obviously, the British taxpayer is not happy with that because we're paying for it. Former Detective Chief Inspector Peter Kirkham, thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, so 16 minutes after 3 o'clock. That's quite a feisty one. That's just to me, it seems perfectly reasonable for the British taxpayer to expect that their money to be spent reasonably, and I don't see any problem with that, and I totally understand why people are protesting, although we say the protest needs to be peaceful. But people have to be able to hold their politicians to account in some way. But what are your thoughts? gbnews.com/your say. Now, Donald Trump is set to begin his 5-day visit to Scotland tomorrow, alongside opening his new golf course. The President will meet with Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and Scotland's First Minister John Swinney. GB News Scotland reporter Tony Maguire joins us now from the village of Turnberry. So what's the sort of main gist there? Are people happy that Trump is coming to visit, or would they rather he stayed away?
Well, I think it's not really, that's not the question. When the President of the United States wants to come for a visit, then you better to believe that all things will be put in place to make sure that that visit goes ahead. Now, it's no secret that, you know, there's huge protest movements in Scotland. In fact, there's a lot of coordinated protests planned over the next few days, especially in the main cities of Aberdeen and Edinburgh and Glasgow. But nevertheless, you know, there is this underlying feeling that all those feelings aside, that, you know, it's always, you know, quite nice when the President of the United States and arguably the leader of the free world comes to a little corner of the world for a visit. Now, this is going to be a 5-day visit, as you said. He's going to spend a few nights here in Turnberry, which is around his Ayrshire golf resorts, with a couple of world-class golf courses revered in the game around the world, and then he's going to go up to Aberdeen towards the end of his visit and open his new course at the Trump International Many Estate, along with a memorial garden to his own Scottish mother, Mary Ann MacLeod. Now, she was born on the Isle of Lewis in a small village of Tong, you know, and President Trump has long spoken about his admiration for Scotland, and, you know, of all the presidents who can claim Scottish heritage, you know, he has arguably done a lot for the Scottish economy. Now, that isn't going to stop the protests from protesting. Certainly, we've seen groups like the Stop Trump Coalition arranging to meet in city centres, particularly on Saturday, where they are going to have their voices heard. But it's going to be very hard to protest around any of these golf resorts. As you can see behind me, I'm just at one of the entrances where vehicles are, some coming in, but very many of them getting turned away. Extremely strict, tight policing operation already underway here, and we're still more than 24 hours away from the President's arrival. They're certainly taking no chances, and that has caused some friction in the Police Federation and Police Scotland, with about 1,500 more officers are getting drafted in for this very special visit.
Tony Maguire, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. He's there in the village of Turnberry. Right, it's just coming up to 20 minutes after 3 o'clock, and there are just 2 weeks remaining in our current Great British giveaway. Your chance to win an incredible £54,321, all of it in tax-free cash. Here are the details that you need.
£54,321 in tax-free cash really could be yours. But what's it like to be a big Great British giveaway winner?
I'm Paul from Sheffield. I was the winner of a very nice motorhome and £5,000 in cash off GB News. Yeah, he just pinged up money in, 5,000, and I'm like, wow, I have actually won this competition. It has changed my life. It's given me stability, and it's given me something to look forward to. Anybody can win. I never thought I was going to win, and I did. So thank you, GB News.
Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Coming up, 2 million pensioners in Britain are currently in poverty as MPs demand a UK-wide strategy to tackle the problem. We'll have the latest reaction and this and more to Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana. They've announced details of their newly formed political party. Just how damaging could this be to the Labour Party? This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6am.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8pm, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3pm every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9pm on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7pm, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7pm, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, welcome back. It's fast approaching 26 minutes after 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akweer. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. Now, earlier today, ex-Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn and hard-left independent MP Zara Sultana confirmed plans for a new party. And in a statement, they said it's time for a new kind of political party, one that belongs to you. However, there appears to be confusion over the name. The website calls the party Your Party, but in a response to a post on X earlier, Zara Sultana said, it's not called Your Party. Well, joining me in the studio, GB News political editor Christopher Hope. Yes, it's so much, isn't it? You know that things are going wrong when you have to now explain things away.
Yes, I was talking over lunch with a sort of political strategist, and they said you get one chance at launching the name of a party, and to have to clarify, it's not called Your Party as soon as Your Party launches. The website is called Your Party, .uk if you want to look at more information about this party. It will cause havoc, of course, with pollsters, as my colleague Maria has been saying to me already, knows about polling. Well, imagine if you're a pollster saying, who are you going to vote for? And the answer is your party. And you say, no, I said, who are you going to vote for? The answer is your party. So it's not really clear if your party is going to be the appropriate name. I think, joking aside, your party is the kind of, the idea of it, is the idea that what they want to settle on is that there's the name for a party when they have a big conference, a founding conference, they're calling it. I mean, if you think about it, other political party names are pretty rubbish. The Conservative Party, that's a bit weird. I mean, Conservative. I mean, I know we know what it is from our history, but it's a strange name for a political party. What's it for? Labour is a bit out of date. Reform, I think, is more on point, reforming everything. Liberal Democrats?
Oh, no, they're not...
What does it even mean? I think, really... to be fair to them, party names are a bit ridiculous anyway, but your party is causing lots of amusement on social media. Mike Tapp, the loyalist Labour MP for Dover and Deal, he's posted a laughing emoji when Zara Sultana clarified it's not called your party. The problem is it is called your party until the name changes. But joking apart, there is some polling done by More in Common. They reckon this could hoover up 12% of the vote or 10% of the vote at elections. That's important because some of that will come from Labour, the biggest chunk from the Greens probably, and a bit from the SNP. The beneficiary will probably be the Reform UK party yet again. So, you know, and we're looking here at a potential reform of the left in the sense that Reform UK started on the right and is now kind of discombobulating both main parties by going after both of them. That could be this new Jeremy Corbyn operation. We'll see who joins them. They could hoover up quite a few of the suspended Labour MPs over the benefits vote. They could hoover up some of those independent MPs elected on the Gaza ticket at the last election. So they could get towards 9 or 10 MPs, maybe, at a push. And then they'll become the fourth biggest grouping, I think, in Parliament, bigger than Reform UK. Not as big in the polls. So it's interesting. It's a further headache for the leader of the party, Sir Keir Starmer.
Is there a risk of this party actually becoming quite a thorn in the side of the Labour Party? Because, as you said, hoovering up independent MPs, Keir Starmer has not been shy of just, you know, removing the whip from his MPs and saying, you know, go your own way. And he's done that. I mean, he only did it recently, didn't he? With 4 of his MPs. Or was it 5? Yeah. 4 or 5. So he did that, and because he knows he's got such a massive majority, but he'll have to think a bit more carefully before he does that.
Well, it gives an outlet for people being upset with the party. It might make the whips in the parliamentary party of Labour think twice before you suspend somebody. Well, they might clear off to Jeremy Corbyn's new outfit.
Well, exactly.
It gives a natural home for disaffected Labour MPs, and that's a bit of a headache, I think, for Sir Keir Starmer. But don't forget, his majority is 160. I mean, that is what's called a supermajority in political terms. He's streets ahead of any other party in Parliament, so you can afford to lose a few. And it may be that if you're Sir Keir Starmer, you look at Jeremy Corbyn, you saw his behaviour and all that at the end of his time as leader. You don't want anything to do with that. And if someone thinks they're more aligned with Jeremy Corbyn, off you go. I want to show to the country that my party's changed, is more centrist than Jeremy Corbyn. So it allows you to differentiate between where Corbyn is. But I think it just shows to me how our two-party system is fracturing. We're going towards what could be a 5-party system, which would be quite an exciting election campaign. I mean, the system here in our Parliament is built around 2 main parties, not 5 of them competing for attention. So it's going to get a lot more interesting politics, not less so. And it could act as this kind of draw to the left. You know, and we are told they want to cut the benefits bill. They couldn't cut $5 billion off the benefits bill that's set to hit $100 billion by the end of the decade. And the depressing thing for anyone who wants a grip on benefit spending is really Labour can do that. The other parties haven't got the permission or the political space to do it. If Labour can't do it, frankly, who can? And we are paying a lot of money for people not to be at work, Nana, and that's not long-term feasible.
No, it isn't at all. Christopher Hope, thank you very much. That's GBNews' political editor, Christopher Hope. Right, there's lots more still to come between... Did I just turn into Martin again? Between now and 4 o'clock, including 2 million pensioners in Britain are currently in poverty as MPs demand a UK-wide strategy to tackle the problem. We'll have the latest reaction to this. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Nana. Good afternoon to you. Our headlines. Sir Keir Starmer and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi have signed a free trade deal worth £6 billion in investment for the British economy, with the Prime Minister labelling it as a landmark moment. He says it will create more than 2,200 jobs in the UK as Indian companies expand here and British businesses secure new opportunities in India. A series of volatile anti-migrant demonstrations near a hotel housing asylum seekers in Essex has been described as a signal flare of rising unrest by a senior police official. Tiff Lynch, chairwoman of the Police Federation, says the disorder is not just a troubling one-off. Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana have shared details of their newly formed political party. They say real change is coming and the aim is to take on the rich and win, although the name of the party remains unclear. The number of shoplifting offences recorded by police in England and Wales has climbed to a record high. More than 530,000 offences were logged in the last year, up 20% from the previous year, the highest number since records began in 2002. And Health Secretary Wes Streeting has reportedly told hospital leaders, "We have your backs," ahead of a 5-day strike by resident doctors. And those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at the top of the next hour.
Hello again, I'm here with the GB News weather from the Met Office. Now as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, for many it's going to be often quite dry, but there will be some wet weather around both towards the southeast and the northwest. There's a front bringing some relatively heavy rain across the southeast through the rest of today, and there's a front waiting out towards the northwest that's going to bring some damp weather later to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for the time being, through much of the rest of today, it's largely dry for most, especially once that rain in the southeast clears away. And then we do see that front edging its way in across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland overnight, so a lot of cloud here, some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a dry night with some clear skies, a few mist and fog patches, but temperatures not dropping particularly low, most places holding up in the mid-teens Celsius. Then as we go into tomorrow morning, a bit of a grey start across many parts of Scotland, particularly towards the north and west. That's because that front will have pushed its way in, so a fair bit of damp weather across western parts in particular, the rain not looking especially heavy. Across parts of Northern Ireland, a grey start here as well, some outbreaks of rain, but across much of England and Wales, a fine bright start. Any mist and fog that does develop overnight will quickly burn away, and so most places will have a decent amount of sunshine. And that's how it's likely to stay for many places. Central, southeastern parts of England may see a few showers developing as we go into the afternoon, but there will also be some bright sunny spells for most of us. Further north and west, that front edging a little bit further in across parts of northern England and North Wales, so bringing a few outbreaks of rain and perhaps a bit more cloud too. Temperatures for many will be a little bit higher tomorrow compared to today. We're looking at highs in the mid, possibly high 20s Celsius, 27, maybe 28 Celsius. A few spots of rain possible as we go into the evening, a few more showers perhaps towards the northwest, and that's kind of the theme that we take into the weekend really. Some showery bursts of rain, most likely towards the northwest, perhaps the southeast at times as well.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A96 is closed in both directions between Foshabers and Keith due to a road traffic incident. Motorists are advised to approach with caution. On the M4 eastbound between Junction J2 and Junction J3 in Medway, an overturned vehicle is causing delays with one lane closed. Expect 10-minute delays. In Cheshire East, the M6 northbound between Junction 16 and 17 has one lane closed due to a collision. Travellers face delays of 50 minutes. And on the trains, Hull trains report a reduced service because of industrial action, while buses replace trains on the London North Western Railway between Watford Junction and St Albans Abbey. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello, good afternoon. 36 minutes after 3 o'clock. Welcome back. I'm Nana Acquia on GB News, in for Martin Daubney. Now, it's one of my favourite subjects, as you know. Not Harry and Meghan, their Hollywood hustle has hit another roadblock. Netflix won't renew their $100 million deal, and their latest shows have flopped hard, sadly. There was the polo thing that Harry did recently. I don't think it even featured in the top 3,000. As viewer numbers dive, critics are calling the content narcissistic and dull. Do you remember all that thing with the sprinkles? So what now for the Sussexes and their luxury Montecito lifestyle? Well, joining me in the studio, royal commentator Richard Palmer.
Hi.
Richard, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, this to me was inevitable, because they were selling the monarchy down the river. That was their main unique selling point. And now that they've exposed everything that is possible to expose, there's really nothing left. What next for Harry and Meghan, in your view?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing to say is that it's quite difficult to get to the bottom of all of this. Neither Netflix or Harry and Meghan's people are commenting on the record about this. I mean, it does look as if their 5-year deal, is not going to be renewed in September. And one suspects that means they're going to lose money out of it. But they're not cutting ties with Netflix completely. I mean, Meghan is still partner in her business, selling products, lifestyle products. She's in partnership with Netflix on that. And as I understand it, there are future projects, film projects, that they're going to discuss. And I believe what's happening is that they're going to do a deal similar to the Obamas, where they give Netflix first refusal on the project. But it may well mean quite a big cut in the amount of money they earn from that. And then that prompts questions about how they finance their lifestyle.
It's curtains, really, isn't it, frankly, for them on all that Netflix and Spotify. Everybody is quietly backing off and trying to make it look as though it's a mutual and nice sort of break-up, as it were. But let's be honest here, pretty much all their last things have flopped. And the backlash that they receive from so many different things, they seem to just misread the room every time.
I mean, it's difficult. As you were suggesting, really, I think their big appeal was when they were talking about their time in the royal family. And once they'd said all of that, the American public got a bit fed up with hearing it.
That's because they were whinging.
As the British public did. And then you say, well, what else have they got to say? And I mean, I think just to balance what you're saying about there being a complete flop, I mean, I think Meghan's last series, We Love Meghan, although it was 383rd most popular show, but that's out of 7,500, so it was in the top 5% of shows.
She's the Duchess of Sussex. This is royal. You know, when Netflix put out that much money into something, they're expecting it to feature in the top kind of 20, at least the top 100. And that really isn't good for business. They've spent $100 million on these two already. So have they had a return on their investment? That's the question. If they haven't...
It certainly looks as there's a bit of a decoupling, but I mean, as I understand it, the Netflix chief executive is still a big fan of them. So I think there will still be links with them, but everybody is slightly puzzled how they finance their lifestyle. I mean, just what they spend on security, for example.
How much do they spend on security?
Well, somewhere depending on different sources, somewhere between £2 and £5 million a year on security.
Oh, that's chump change for them. Didn't Diana leave Prince Harry at least 15 million or something? And
I think
he's made a lot of money out of his book at the expense of his family. I mean, Spare was the #1, the fastest selling autobiography in history, as we know. And he did make a lot of money, but obviously that was at the expense of his family. So he's extremely rich from that.
He did make money, yeah. I think it was 10 million from Diana. I think there's probably inherited other money down the years. But even so, they're going to have to find a way of churning the money out to maintain their lifestyle. And it looks as if Meghan is going to be the chief earner on that front.
Wow. Wow, how the worm has turned. Wow. Thank you very much, Richard Palmer. Really good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Richard Palmer, I remember him. Addicted to love. That was Richard Palmer, wasn't it? Oh, Richard Palmer. All right, well, so stay with me. Coming up, 2 million pensioners in Britain are currently in poverty as MPs demand a UK-wide strategy to tackle the problem. We'll have the latest reaction to that. But first, if you are in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're off on your holidays this week, let's take a look at the weather across Europe. So, particularly hot for Italy and Greece, but further west, particularly windy for the Canary Islands and down the western coast of Portugal and in particularly the southwestern part of the Mediterranean. Thunderstorms for southeastern Spain, across France and northern Italy, but it's southern Italy and Greece that will be looking particularly hot, warmer than usual, and that heat is likely to last into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
Is J.K. Rowling an extremist, radicalised TERF?
It's extraordinarily patronising to suggest that a woman who's created whole new magical worlds from her own imagination has to be radicalised by other people in order to form her own views. And that in itself I find extremely patronising. And, you know, a man may think that women don't have our own rich inner life and form our own political views, but we do, as Nana's just demonstrated. But secondly, there's nothing radical about believing that men and women are material realities, and sometimes in law, in policy, in life, that matters. That's her position. It's a very common, in fact, it's a majority position.
James, what is a woman?
But that's Nana.
Well, no, I'm just wondering. Well, it's just a simple question because I'm just asking, what is a woman then? Because do you believe that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man?
Yes, because man and woman is gendered.
So what is a woman? So what is a woman?
Male and there is female, which is sex. This is a problem that I think a lot of you have. I'm a feminist. I believe in women's rights. I believe in women's safety. But the problem here is we are focusing on an absolute minority of people who have no, you know, when you look at it in the round, who have no threat to women. You know, statistically,
you don't know that. You listen. The threat to women.
Sorry, not in the way that men are. This is the whole problem. Is that you saying man dressing up as a woman?
Yes.
That's despicable, Nana.
Well, it's the truth.
That is not the reality.
What else?
Nana, do you have any trans friends?
I have plenty of them.
Do you mix with trans people?
I have mixed with trans people. I mix with all people.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Read the headlines. You've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script. You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week. Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Acquia, in for Martin Daubney, 47 minutes after 3 o'clock. Now, lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts and views. At the top of the show, I spoke to a former police chief, and there's some of the things we were talking about was basically the fact that we know that some of the migrants are spending the money that they're given on things like betting shops and also casinos. We know this because we can see the receipts from some of the exchanges and so on and so forth. And Tilly said, and what happened was I was speaking to the gentleman and he said, and why shouldn't they spend their money on this? And Tilly said, and why shouldn't they? They've got nothing else to do. Is he for real? Because that's what he said. He said they've got nothing else to do, so it's fair enough for them to spend our money in betting shops. And it's the government's fault for not putting stipulations on how that money should be spent. He's right in some respects with that bit there. Then Ian says, but to be fair... Oh, no, it's one. Dubbing says the only time politicians take notice of the electorate is when they get their posteriors well and truly kicked. That does seem to be true, doesn't it? The Labour Party were all very lovely to us to get us to vote for him. Steve says, good on you giving former plodder... whatever, I won't read the rest of that. Keep doing what you do. And then Richard says, did our people fight 2 world wars for this? I will never forgive Keir Starmer and his heap of career politicians. MPs, not one challenged him. Have they not had 24-hour high security? The whole lot would have. They are brown noses, in other words. The truth is no one can get out without being sure they will come back, and it will get worse. Starmer has made sure of that, and now he's bragging about 5 billion and not mentioning the 2.4 trillion debt that we are in. And would you believe Trump has praised him? What on earth is going on? Right, well, thank you for that. Keep your thoughts coming. gbnews.com/your say. Right, let's move on. A cross-party group of MPs is urging the Labour government to do more to help pensioners living in poverty. They also want more action taken to confront the fact that Britain has an ageing population, a dilemma that's set to intensify over the next decade. Well, let's speak to the Charity Director of Age UK, Caroline Abrahams. Caroline, thank you very much for joining me. So, Caroline, look, there are many pensioners. There are around about just under 13 million pensioners, as we know, in the UK. Not all of them claim benefit. Around 8.5 million of them claim benefit. And there is a problem with some of the pension credit because a lot of the people who are entitled to it don't actually claim it. What can we do to, first of all, make our pensioners aware of what they're entitled to, but also support them in the coming years? Because there's talk about removing the triple lock.
Yeah, well, hi. Thank you very much for allowing me on your programme today. Yeah, we really like this report. We think it's an excellent report, not from one party, but from MPs from across Parliament. So very representative, I think. And they speak a lot of common sense. They're basically pointing out that we haven't got a strategy at the moment as a country for helping older people who are entitled to extra support because they're on a really low income to be able to actually claim it. And, of course, we saw what happened during the winter fuel payment argument where the government put quite a lot of emphasis on trying to support more people to claim. They paid for some TV adverts and things like that. But even that didn't do it. And that's, of course, when you think about it, not that surprising because older people are often unwell. They haven't always got someone who can help them to make quite a complicated claim for a benefit. So really, we need to fundamentally reform the system in the longer term. Ideally, people who are on a very low income could be easily identified and we would give them the money direct without making them jump through lots of hoops in order to claim it.
Yeah, it seems pretty obvious, I think, how we could help. I think they often spend a lot of time almost evading doing anything by doing repeated reports. And what it says is kind of what a lot of us knew already. So I do find these reports good, that they are, you know, sort of verifying what we are all thinking. But then what's the next step then? Because it's great, we've identified now that we're all slightly singing from a more similar hymn sheet and it's cross-party. But now what's the move in your view?
Well, this is Parliament telling government, doesn't matter what complexion it is, it could be any government, that it needs to do a better job on pensioner poverty. And we just completely agree with that at Age UK. You know, that sometimes people try to say that all older people are doing fantastically well. And it is true that some older people do have nice high incomes, but an awful lot of people don't. And we know that 3 million older people aren't actually getting enough money in every week to attain a minimum standard of living. So for that 3 million, and that's a lot of people, life is really tough, even with the triple lock. So I think we need a much more serious look at how we can help older people, particularly those at the bottom of the income distribution, to really have a decent lifestyle when they get older, because I think that's what everybody should feel entitled to after having worked all their lives and contributed to our society and our economy in lots of different ways.
Do you get annoyed when you hear people say, oh, there's all these millionaire pensioners that are living off and they shouldn't get... Do you think that if you are a millionaire, say, as a pensioner, that you should get some form of state pension because you have put into the pot?
At the moment, the deal is that you pay your national insurance during your lifetime when you're working, and that means that you get a state pension at the end when it's time to stop working. And at some point, it is open to a government to change that system, but you know, that would have to be part of a much more thought-through package of measures that would particularly ensure that people at the bottom could really afford to make ends meet. And part of the problem we face as a country is that we're not as well off as we'd like to be, as you know, and as you're often saying, I think, on this channel. And so, actually, for most pensioners, that state pension is a really important part of the money that they get in. For some, of course, it's the only money they get in, but even the better off, usually it's quite a significant chunk. So, of course, it's true that there are some people who've got nice private sector pensions or those defined benefit pensions, and they're doing very well. But unfortunately, that's not everybody. An awful lot of people, most pensioners, are not nearly that well off. So we would welcome at Age UK a proper discussion about how we get to the right place on this. And the government has just announced the new pension commission. It was announced earlier this week, and that will be looking mostly though at private pensions. Very important, very important for the future, but we need to think about the state pension as well.
All right, Caroline, thank you very much. That's Caroline Abraham. She's the director of Age UK. It's a nice thing that if you've put money into a pension pot, even if you do end up being a millionaire at the end of it, if the deal is that you put that money in and that becomes your pension and you put it into that, then you should get that at the end, irrespective. That's what I think. What do you think? gbnews.com/, you'll say plenty more coming in the next hour. Could Britain be set for a summer of riot chaos? This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'll leave you with the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with the GB News weather from the Met Office. Now, as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, for many it's going to be often quite dry, but there will be some wet weather around both towards the southeast and the northwest. There's a front bringing some relatively heavy rain across the southeast through the rest of today, and there's a front waiting out towards the northwest that's going to bring some damp weather later to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for the time being, through much of the rest of today, it's largely dry for most, especially once that rain in the southeast clears away. And then we do see that front edging its way in across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland overnight, so a lot of cloud here, some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a dry night with some clear skies, a few mist and fog patches, but temperatures not dropping particularly low, most places holding up in the mid-teens Celsius. Then as we go into tomorrow morning, a bit of a grey start across many parts of Scotland, particularly towards the north and west. That's because that front will have pushed its way in, so a fair bit of damp weather across western parts in particular, the rain not looking especially heavy. Across parts of Northern Ireland, a grey start here as well, some outbreaks of rain, but across much of England and Wales, a fine bright start. Any mist and fog that does develop overnight will quickly burn away, and so most places will have a decent amount of sunshine. And that's how it's likely to stay for many places. Central, southeastern parts of England may see a few showers developing as we go into the afternoon, but there will also be some bright sunny spells for most of us. Further north and west, that front edging a little bit further in across parts of northern England and North Wales, so bringing a few outbreaks of rain and perhaps a bit more cloud too. Temperatures for many will be a little bit higher tomorrow compared to today. We're looking at highs in the mid, possibly high 20s Celsius, 27, maybe 28 Celsius. A few spots of rain possible as we go into the evening, a few more showers perhaps towards the northwest, and that's kind of the theme that we take into the weekend really. Some showery bursts of rain, most likely towards the northwest, perhaps the southeast at times as well.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A96 is closed between Fochabers and Keith due to a road incident causing driver delays. The M4 from junction 37 Pyle to junction 39 Grows remains closed for construction with diversions in place. The A19 southbound entry slip from the A194 is partially blocked. Commuters on the M1 northbound between junction 10 and junction 11 should anticipate delays due to a traffic incident blocking 2 lanes. The M25 anti-clockwise is experiencing delays due to a collision between junction 11 and junction 10. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway reports delays between Derby and Stoke-on-Trent. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it is 4 o'clock. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show with me, Nana Aquare, on GB News, broadcasting live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. So coming up, there are fresh warnings that the police are overstretched and may be pushed to breaking point over the growing numbers of protests against migrant hotels. Could we face a summer of chaos? Then ex-Labour MP Jeremy Corbyn, ex-Labour leader, Jeremy, and have announced details of their newly formed political party, but just how damaging to the Labour Party will this new group be, and what is it even called? The UN has opened the door to Britain being sued over its historic contribution to climate change. But is the UK seriously the country that should be targeted and not the likes of China and India? And Harry and Meghan's $100 million Netflix deal will not be renewed. But just what might this fresh uncertainty mean for the future of the Sussexes? All of that on the way. Honestly, it seems an absurd notion that we can be sued for historic climate change because of the things that we have done in the past, like the Industrial Revolution, which brought in so much and has probably saved millions of lives through the inventions that this country created. Honestly, I think it's absolutely shocking. What are your thoughts? gbnews.com/your say. Should we be allowed to be sued for our historic behaviour because of climate change now, when the likes of China and India are spewing out more CO2 than we ever did? Let's see your thoughts, gbnews.com/your say. But now, let's get your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to your headlines. The Prime Minister and his Indian counterpart have hailed an historic day after signing a free trade deal worth £6 billion to the British economy. Under the agreement, it will be cheaper to export cars and whiskey to India and Indian textiles and jewellery to the UK. The deal, which took nearly 3.5 years to agree, also sets out a plan between the countries to tackle illegal migration and to work more closely on defence, climate and health. Mr Modi says they're writing a new chapter in the country's shared history. Sir Keir Starmer said it's a step change in relations between the countries.
This is a historic day, a landmark moment for both of our countries. The UK-India deal is now signed, sealed and ready to be delivered. So it's a real pleasure to welcome you.
A mother and her 2 children killed in a suspected triple murder in County Fermanagh have been named. Vanessa White, her son James and daughter Sarah died following the shooting in Maguire's Bridge. A 4th person, a man, remains in a serious condition in hospital after the incident took place yesterday. Police say all 4 members of the same household suffered gunshot wounds. The number of shoplifting offences recorded by police in England and Wales has climbed to a record high. And more than 530,000 offences were logged last year, up 20% from the previous year, and the highest total since current police recording practices began in 2002. The number of knife crime offences recorded by forces, though, fell by 1% year on year. Let's hear from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, who reacted earlier to the figures.
Well, the figures show serious violence is down and also knife crime falling for the first time for a long time. And there has been a 4-year trend of increasing shop theft and street theft, which reflects the decimation of neighbourhood policing under the previous Conservative government. But that's why we're putting 3,000 more neighbourhood police on the streets this year, and why 500 towns will get additional neighbourhood patrols this summer, so we can target those crimes that really matter to communities.
Recent disorder in Essex was a signal flare of rising unrest, which exposes cracks in police forces across the country. That's according to the head of a police body. The chairman of the Police Federation, Tiff Lynch, wrote in The Telegraph the disorder that took place in Epping recently was not just a troubling one-off. Her comments follow a series of demonstrations outside the Bell Hotel, which took place ever since an asylum seeker was charged with sexual assault, which he denies. It comes as Essex Police has issued a dispersal order there in place from 2 p.m. to cover the area, including the town centre and the transport hubs. Well, yesterday the police in Essex denied that it had bussed counter-demonstrators to and from a demonstration outside that hotel last week, although it did admit escorting some people away from that for their own safety. It says deliberate use of counter-protesters that they're accused of is categorically wrong. 10 demonstrators were arrested on charges of disorder. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has reportedly told hospital leaders, "We have your backs," ahead of a 5-day strike by resident doctors. The public are being urged to keep coming forward for NHS care during the walkout, which begins tomorrow at 7 a.m. NHS England boss Sir Jim Mackey said the health service would be much more resistant to the demands of the BMA, the British Medical Association. Thousands are expected to join the strike, the 12th by junior doctors since March 2023. Sir Keir Starmer's government is deeply committed to recognising a Palestinian state. That's according to his cabinet minister, Jonathan Reynolds. His comments come as the chief of the World Health Organization says Gaza is suffering a man-made mass starvation, accusing Israel of a blockade on aid into the enclave. At a UN Security Council meeting, the UN's representative UK's representative to the UN, Dame Barbara Woodward, described the Israeli aid system as inhumane, ineffective, dangerous and fueling instability. Israel has dismissed reports of numerous deaths as a result of malnutrition as propaganda. And Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana have shared details about their newly formed political party, saying real change is coming. The MP for Islington North, Mr Corbyn, said in a statement the system is rigged, and he called for a mass redistribution of wealth and power. Now, an inaugural conference will take place for members to decide the party's direction, the model of leadership and the policies needed to transform society, and also the name of the party, which has yet to be determined. Those are your latest headlines. I'll be back with more at 4:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Quick look at the markets. The pound buys you $1.35 and €1.15. The price of gold, £2,492 and 10 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,141 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News, we are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Acquia. Now, people are expected to gather in Epping this evening in protest at the Bell Hotel. We can now cross live to Epping and speak to GB News' national reporter, Charlie Peters, who has more. Charlie, what can you tell us?
Well, good afternoon, Nana. Some protesters have already arrived here ahead of that planned protest, but there'll be a difference to their occasion today. In contrast to the previous protests here, there is now a dispersal order in place, active from 2 p.m. this afternoon, stretching from the Bell Hotel, including the local area, going as far as the tube station as well. And that marks a significant change because yesterday, under questioning from GB News, the Chief Constable of Essex Police, Ben Julian Harrington, he did not say if he regretted his force's previous attempts to manage this protest, and he was questioned about whether or not his force regretted bringing counter-protesters to this location. Well, now, as a contrast, just come with me further down the road here. You can see they've set up some fencing to the right. Now, these have been put up this afternoon, and they are 2 clear separate pens, I presume, for the rival groups and protesters to gather in. Some people already here preparing ahead of that protest this evening. But it does go to show, Nana, that there has been a change in Essex police tactics. Yesterday, the Chief Constable saying that all they were trying to do was maintain lawful protest, but actually it seems they've made a different approach today by adding in that dispersal order. They did not want to say that they'd made a mistake with escorting those counter-pressers, as they describe themselves, anti-fascists, bringing them to Epping, bringing them to the Bell Hotel, monitoring them from the train station. But it seems if they don't want to say it, they have made changes on the ground. Well, earlier this afternoon, we did see some police vans arriving with dogs inside. We've also seen some asylum seekers entering the hotel here ahead of that planned protest, where there could be 2 rival groups gathering outside in those separate penned fences.
All right. Charlie Peters, thank you very much. We'll keep a close eye on that. That's Charlie Peters. He's there in Epping. And, of course, a dispersal order gives the police the power to direct people to leave a specific area and then not return within a certain period of time. The average period of time usually is around about 48 hours. So that's what that's about, if you're wondering what a dispersal order means. Now, the Police Federation, which represents rank and file officers, has claimed that policing is not prepared for a repeat of last summer's protest. Of course, we're seeing lots of protests in Epping as well, as officers are deployed to keep the peace outside a 4-star hotel in London that is reportedly preparing to welcome asylum seekers. We can speak to GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Mark, What could you tell us?
Well, Nana, just before we get on to the wider concerns about the availability of police resources to deal with protests, we can tell you that with regard to the protest in Epping, we've just had an update from Essex Police who've confirmed now that 16 people have been arrested in connection with that protest last Thursday, charged with an array of offences, including violent disorder and criminal damage. And we've had a statement as well through from the Assistant Chief Constable of Essex, Stuart Hooper. He said, we'd promised that we're continuing to investigate the unacceptable actions of a small number of people who chose to take advantage of peaceful protests to try to cause harm to people in Epping or to property. He goes on to say, we've been analysing footage and we've investigators and trained detectives working on this operation. We are identifying suspects and there will be more arrests in the coming days. Put simply, he says, if you turn up to try to cause trouble, you won't get away with it. So a very clear warning from the Assistant Chief Constable of Essex Police that they are going through the CCTV and other surveillance video that they've taken from these protests to try to identify those involved in criminality and continue to make arrests following that disorder on Thursday. And of course, with those new restrictions in place that Charlie Peters was highlighting there, the police will have more powers to impose those restrictions and to move people away under risk or threat of arrest if they don't comply with that. On the wider issue, then, Anna, of policing these protests, not just in Epping, but potentially in other locations in the country. We know about Canary Wharf, we know about Norfolk, a couple of locations down south on the coast in the last couple of days as well that have seen protests. They all require significant policing resources because of always the potential for disorder, and the police have to police appropriately, and that means taking those officers away from frontline duties. And the difficulty with this, Nana, is that you're taking away officers from frontline duties at a time when they are being pressured, understandably, by the Home Secretary and other senior politicians to get on with the business of dealing with the crimes that are now priorities for this government and for the public. Crimes such as street robberies, crimes such as violent disorder or violent crimes, I should say, like knife crimes, and also shoplifting. The latest figures out just today show that shoplifting has risen 20% over the past year, more than 500,000 reported incidents of shoplifting. The real number is far higher than that because many shoplifting cases just go unreported. So these are the kind of priority areas the police want to be dealing with and focusing on. But of course, with the potential for more of these protests happening in the weeks and months ahead, they will have to prioritise the likes of covering these protests.
All right, Mark White, thank you very much for that. That's Mark White. He's our Home and Security Editor. Yeah, see, the thing is, it shouldn't be either or. We should really be able to handle all of these things with a decent police force. But I hear we've lost about 10,000 officers in the space of about a year and a half. Let's speak to the head of Crime and Justice Policy Exchange, David Spencer. David, we find ourselves in an interesting predicament where we are losing numbers in terms of the force and police officers, and now we are having to really prioritise, and it could be at the expense of our own sort of local policing. Is there anything our police can do? Is there any way we can... I thought we had riot police and different police for different things. What has gone on for us to have such depleting numbers of police officers?
Well, it's fair to say we are in a bit of a perfect storm as we approach the middle of the summer. So over the last year, we've seen that we have 1,500 fewer police officers nationally than we did before. We've seen, as your colleague was just saying, 20% increase in shoplifting, 31% increase in fraud, 50% increase in robbery against businesses. So we've seen sort of local, what we might call local crime rates increase over the last year. And then, of course, we're dealing with these protests, this potential for disorder at the same time as well. So we are really confronting a perfect storm. The reality of policing, and it was always been like this, is that there is no new box of police officers, no sort of freshly minted new box to be brought out for things like public order policing. It is the same police officers, and always has been, who are dealing with the shoplifters and the drug dealers and the robbers. It's the same people, the same police officers in uniform that are doing that as are going to be called in to deal with public order matters as well. Actually, there are a very, very small number of the most senior sort of public order officers, trained officers, for example, in London, those number in their hundreds, who are dedicated primarily to public order duties. The reality is, in almost every case, it is officers who should be doing other things who'll be asked to go and police this demonstration, these protests all over the country.
Do you think that this is... I don't... Like, when I hear this, I think, yeah, OK, we've got lots of protests going on, but I can remember when every Saturday or every weekend we had a pro-Palestine march, not only in London, but in lots of parts of the country, and we coped then. Do you feel that perhaps they are kind of spinning this a bit more because of what the protest is about? Because it seems to me we had, although the police were taken from other parts and deployed to police these marches, we still had apparently enough police, or nobody was really saying too much about the fact that we're starving our police in other areas of this country. Or were they? Did I miss something?
I'm not sure. I think we certainly at Policy Exchange, when we looked at this, we looked in detail actually about a whole range of the sort of legal and operational challenges around policing protests. And this is one of the points that we made, is actually both for those large-scale Palestine protests and also the protests that we're looking at now, the demonstrations we're looking at now. Actually, we are always looking at taking officers away from their normal local duties, and that inevitably has an impact on them. I think the big challenge that we're looking at this year is whether or not things have changed from last year. So you'll remember after the protests and demonstrations, the disorder that happened last year, the government talked about increasing sort of better tactical coordination, better intelligence, and, you know, that was something that they talked about a lot during the summer and after the summer last year following the disorder then. The question will be whether a year down the line, whether that has been put in place and whether that is the case. Senior police chiefs who I've spoken to say they are ready. The proof will be in the pudding as we go through this year if there are further instances of disorder. But certainly the police say they're ready. And a year ago, the government said these were the steps they're going to put in place. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, we will indeed. Thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That's David Spencer. He's the head of crime and justice at the Policy Exchange. Now to Donald Trump. He is set to begin his 5-day visit to Scotland tomorrow. Alongside opening his new golf course, the President will meet with Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and Scotland's First Minister John Swinney. GBNews' Scotland reporter Tony Maguire joins us now from the village of Turnberry. Is the excitement building, Tony?
Yeah, good afternoon. Well, you know, I think there's definitely a bit of a buzz in the air. The scene behind me is just one of the entrances for vehicles to come in. Now, it's pretty much closed to anyone except if you're, you know, feeling flush enough to pay for that £1,000 tea time today, or indeed the staff and guests at the hotel. But if you can, you know, just for a sense of how strict and, you know, meticulous this policing operation is, at the other side is where the vehicles are coming in for a hotel wedding. Now, there's a wedding happening there today, and over the course of a few hours, just half the cars that were arriving for that wedding were through the checkpoint. You know, police making absolutely no bones about making sure that security is at the highest degree. Now, there's been a bit of, you know, back and forth. The Scottish Police Federation, well, they were actually considering legal action earlier this week just because they thought of the immense strain strain that this visit was going to put on the officers of Police Scotland, but certainly it looks like Police Scotland have drafted in up to 1,500 extra officers from elsewhere in the country to cope with the size of this visit. The President is due to touch down here in Ayrshire tomorrow evening. He'll spend a few days here at one of his Turnberry resort. Now, this is a couple of the incredible golf courses here, revered the world over. And then he will go up to open his new course up in Aberdeenshire at his Many Estate, the Trump International Resort up in Aberdeen, along with a memorial garden to recognise his mother, Mary Ann MacLeod, who herself is from the village of Tong on the Isle of Lewis. Now, President Trump has made no bones about his deep love for Scotland, and you know, people here are obviously of mixed reviews, I guess, of the President, a lot of them intending to protest over this weekend, but certainly for the most part the President will be here in Ayrshire, at least to the beginning of his trip, for some much needed rest and relaxation.
Not sure he's going to get much of that, but Tony Maguire, thank you very much. He's there in the village of Turnberry, who are bubbling with excitement for Donald Trump's visit tomorrow evening. Right, still to come, French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte have filed a defamation lawsuit against right-wing influencer Candace Owens over allegedly falsely accusing Bridget of being born a man. And next, the number of shoplifting offences recorded by police in England and Wales has climbed to another record high. Stay tuned. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Acquia. Now, the number of shoplifting offences recorded by police in England and Wales has climbed to a record high. Some 530,643 offences were logged in the last year. That was up by 20% from 2023 to 2024, and it was the highest total since the current police recording practices began in 2002. Well, joining me in the studio is Reform UK Councillor, Westminster City Council, Layla Cunningham. Layla, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I am personally not surprised by the rise in these figures, because as soon as they said, oh, well, we won't really be criminalised to £200, up to £200, then, of course, the shoplifters, they're not stupid. They've worked it out. And also, people who run shops and own shops know that it's not really in their best interest to chase these people, because the law doesn't always end up on their side.
No, and for me, yes, I was walking down my high street 2 days ago, and it's absolutely right. And a guy just walked out with about 10 steaks in his hand, brazen, knowing that he's not going to be prosecuted. And I spoke to the manager after. He said, it happens to me every half an hour. And security guards are not going to put their life on the risk. No. But it costs us all, because prices go up, shops don't want to open, and it gives an impression of lawlessness, and that's what we're here to tackle.
Well, it's sort of a broken windows theory, isn't it? It's once when people see that things are damaged, then people can't be bothered. It was like when I had my Citroen C1. Very lovely car, but it was beaten up all over the place. So when I did a little bash it here and bash there, I'd be like, well, it's all right, it doesn't matter. It's just another, you know.
Well, yeah, but now that might get nicked.
The Citroen C1?
Yeah.
Nah. No, it's the Range Rover now. You have to be.
No, you can't insure a Range Rover. You've got to ask yourself why.
Well, you can now, because of the new upgrades that they've put in.
Yeah, the new door handles that pop out.
The new measures and everything. But, again, same thing. We have an issue with certain cars that the manufacturers had to step up, which I think they should anyway. But that was because criminals were just getting the upper hand.
And criminals are getting the upper hand. You know, policing's been cut so little that yesterday I was on Oxford Street, a hotspot for phone theft. I didn't see a policeman in sight. And I never see a policeman in sight when I'm there. And I don't see a policeman ever. And I get feedback from residents. People really feel unsafe. I mean, there were 145 stabbings in the report a day, Nana. That's 145 families that are devastated by knife crime. Murder, 535 murders a year, more than one a day.
Now, you're Westminster Council.
Yes.
So all of that is under the umbrella of our good friend Sadiq Khan.
Oh, yes.
What I don't get, if we're going to have these mayors and these regional mayors that Angela Rayner's very pleased to talk about, what is he doing? Where are these people when this comes to root? Because Sadiq Khan, I haven't heard him mention knife crime now for a very long time. In fact, I think last time I knew he was off in America telling us how we should legalise cannabis.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I saw him in Lagos. I don't know what he was doing there. No, he never mentions knife crime, and he doesn't address it. It almost feels to me, and I think most people I speak to, is that he doesn't care. His main interest is punishing drivers. And he wants to have, an international platform as some kind of green warrior. But on the street, people are scared. Knife crime is mad. We've got gangs walking around with balaclavas, and it's scary. I mean, my boy was mugged. I had to run after the mugger myself, because people can do the legwork. Yeah.
Obviously, you don't advise people to do that.
No, I don't advise. But, if someone mugs your child, you're going to be upset. And when I called the police, they said they don't have enough resources to send. And there was persistent mugging. And this is happening across the city. Well, shoplifting is so high. Shops don't want to open. Prices are going up. When I go travel abroad, people tell me, London's got a bad reputation internationally.
Well, of course, Sadiq Khan's not here to defend himself, but he is welcome to come here and defend himself. So, Sadiq Khan, this is an open invite to you. Anytime you want to come here and talk to us about what you are or not doing about knife crime, you are welcome to do that. We would like to get your feedback. There are many Londoners who watch GB News who would like to hear what he has to say, but somehow he doesn't really want to come on and talk to us about it.
You wouldn't dare?
No.
I saw a post of him, a post that he posted on Instagram focusing on microaggression, saying if you ask someone where they're really from, it's a microaggression. If you tell someone, oh, you speak really good English, that's a microaggression. What? I mean, I get asked all the time where I'm really from. My mum, who came here in the 60s, if someone tells us she speaks very good English, it's a compliment. He focuses on dividing us as opposed to uniting us. And the London community is a fantastic community. There's so many of us, and it's a different... we put up with a lot. And he's totally ignored policing. And I don't know if you know, but he's cutting policing from the royal parks.
See, that makes no sense whatsoever.
No, a safe haven for so many.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
As crime goes up, he cuts policing.
It is a shame again, Sadiq Khan not here to defend himself, but welcome to come on and defend himself, and it's an open invite to him. But I do find it quite shocking that police numbers are being cut, resources are being cut. There's a lot of the police stations have been closed down, so there's literally nowhere we can go.
No.
I do feel sorry for the police, but then we have seen a whole barrel of rotten apples inside the force. I don't really know, in your view, what's the solution to fixing this situation?
So I've got to say, I've worked closely with the police. I haven't come across any bad apples. I think they work really, really hard and they put their life on the line for us. And there has to be a level of respect for the police from the top, which you don't see from Sadiq Khan. You don't see him praising the police all the time. But there has to be a zero-tolerance approach to low-level persistent crime. Because low-level, if you get away with that, it leads to high-level, and we don't have that. So what reform is suggesting is more police on the streets, more safer neighbourhood team. My safer neighbourhood team was cut from 10 to 1. You can imagine what that leads to. And it's going after low-level crime. I mean, you read in the statistics today, only 6% of crimes come to charge.
Well, that's
and
absurd.
Well, as a prosecutor, I saw that there were so many delays in getting, for instance, forensic evidence that would take a year or two. And that delay, it puts it no longer in the public interest to go for a charge. So there has been successive governments have ignored the criminal justice system at the cost of the safety of people. And
we need a sort of Mayor Giuliani approach, kind of 3 strikes you're out. He was very successful in that in New York. I'd love to see something more like that. I know Nigel was mentioning stuff.
Well, exactly.
Like
and Nigel understands what people want and he understands what needs to be done. And he's the only person talking about it.
Well, I would like to hear more of the political parties focusing on it, because it's not really a party political issue. It's an issue that we all face in this country, the policing levels. It was really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Really good to talk to you. Yes, what are your thoughts? That was Layla Cunningham. She's a councillor at Westminster City Council. What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Now, there are still lots more on the way up till 5 o'clock, including French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte, who filed a defamation lawsuit against influencer Candace Owens over falsely accusing, we don't know whether it is false or not, but I'm not going to say that she's a man, accusing Brigitte of being born a man. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Hi there, let's get you up to date with the latest headlines from the GB newsroom. Demonstrators are gathering outside a hotel housing asylum seekers in Essex again, despite a dispersal order, as police brace for further unrest. The Bell Hotel in Epping's been at the centre of a series of volatile demonstrations, which began last week after an asylum seeker based there was charged with sexual assault. He denies the allegations. Essex police now say 16 arrests have been made. So Keir Starmer and India's Narendra Modi have signed a free trade deal with £6 billion in investment for the British economy. The Prime Minister's labelled it a landmark moment and says it will create more than 2,200 jobs in the UK. Your party or not your party? Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultan have shared details of their newly formed political party, although the name remains unclear. They say the aim is to take on the rich and say real change is coming. The number of shoplifting offences recorded by police in England and Wales has climbed to a record high. More than 530,000 were logged in the last year. That's up 20% from 23 to 24, and the highest total since current police recording practices began in 2002. And the Health Secretary, Wes Streetings, reportedly told hospital leaders, "We have your backs," ahead of a 5-day strike by resident doctors, which will begin tomorrow morning. That's it for the moment. I'll be back with more at 5.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello again, I'm here with the GB News weather from the Met Office. Now, as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, for many it's going to be often quite dry, but there will be some wet weather around both towards the southeast and the northwest. There's a front bringing some relatively heavy rain across the southeast through the rest of today, and there's a front waiting out towards the northwest that's going to bring some damp weather later to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for the time being, through much of the rest of today, it's largely dry for most, especially once that rain in the southeast clears away. And then we do see that front edging its way in across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland overnight, so a lot of cloud here, some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a dry night with some clear skies skies, a few mist and fog patches, but temperatures not dropping particularly low, most places holding up in the mid-teens Celsius. Then as we go into tomorrow morning, a bit of a grey start across many parts of Scotland, particularly towards the north and west. That's because that front will have pushed its way in, so a fair bit of damp weather across western parts in particular, the rain not looking especially heavy. Across parts of Northern Ireland, a grey start here as well, some outbreaks of rain, but across much of England and Wales, a fine bright start. Any mist and fog that does develop overnight will quickly burn away, and so most places will have a decent amount of sunshine. And that's how it's likely to stay for many places. Central, southeastern parts of England may see a few showers developing as we go into the afternoon, but there will also be some bright sunny spells for most of us. Further north and west, that front edging a little bit further in across parts of northern England and North Wales, so bringing a few outbreaks of rain and perhaps a bit more cloud too. Temperatures for many will be a little bit higher tomorrow compared to today. We're looking at highs in the mid, possibly high 20s Celsius, 27, maybe 28 Celsius. A few spots of rain possible as we go into the evening, a few more showers perhaps towards the northwest. And that's kind of the theme that we take into the weekend really. Some showery bursts of rain, most likely towards the northwest, perhaps the southeast at times as well.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Traffic is partially blocked on the A9 at Cairney Bray towards Broxton. The M4 is closed between junctions 37 at Pyle and 39 at Grows. In South Tyneside, the A19 southbound faces a lane closure due to a broken down vehicle. Delays of 30 minutes are reported on the M6 southbound between junctions 34 and 33 in Lancashire. In Surrey, an accident on the M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 11 and 10 closes 2 lanes. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway reports delays between Derby and Stoke-on-Trent, and Hull train service is reduced due to industrial action. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, 37 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. Now, earlier today, ex-Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn and hard-left independent MP Zara Sultana confirmed plans for a new party and in a statement said, "It is time for a new kind of political party, one that belongs to you." However, there does appear to be confusion over the name. That's not a statement. The website calls the party Your Party, but that's not the name of the party, by the way. That's just it's like a holding name. And in response to a post on X earlier, because they've confused everybody, Zara Sultana said, "It's not called Your Party." You know you've got a problem when you have to explain these things. I'm joined in the studio by GB News political editor Christopher Hope and also Reform UK councillor and Westminster City councillor Layla Cunningham. Right, so Christopher Hope, this is all feels like there's some sort of confusion now over the name of the party.
The problem when you look at a new party is the moment you hit the get-go, get the name right. The name has not been set out yet. They're going to establish that at a foundation conference. We'll hear that shortly. It's throwing open to the people and what to call it. It's to the left of the Labour Party. It could be an electoral issue at the next election. Some say they could get as much as 10 points in the polls. Most off the Greens, a bit off Labour and a bit off the SNP. But the new leader, maybe the Your Party leader, is Jeremy Corbyn. And here he is now, speaking moments ago.
Very easy question to start. You're starting a new party. What's it going to be called?
It's Your Party. We're going to decide when we had all the responses. And so far, the response rate has been massive. They've been coming in at 500 a minute, wanting to support and join the new party. And we're open with suggestions for names. So if you've got a good suggestion, bring it on. I want it to be something that's inclusive, effective to mobilise people and bring people in. And so we're looking at all that, but it'll be short and inclusive. And so any ideas out there, I'm ready to receive them. Listen, people have had enough out there. They're fed up with seeing cuts to their services, threats to personal independence payments, continuing child poverty, waspy women shortchanged by the government, and the only thing they can find money for is more weapons of war. The problem is that ahead of the last general election, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves boxed themselves in by saying they would never change any level of taxation, particularly for the richest in our society. They now have a financial problem. Not very surprising. Reform only offer a message of division and blame. All they do is say that every social problem in our society is somehow or other the fault of extremely vulnerable minorities. They are a dangerously divisive force in our society. What we're offering instead is to bring people together so we collectively face the issues of poverty, the issues about bad housing, the issues of underfunded education. So we face those issues together. Reform are a road to danger, not a road to any improvement in people's lives.
OK, he's back. Jeremy Corbyn is back as leader of a new party called Your Party. That's obviously a holding name. He wants a short and inclusive ideas, names for this party. Nana, I'm sure you've got one.
I've got quite a few. Listen, we'd love to hear what you think. What would you call this party? gbnews.com/your say. Jeremy Corbyn is looking for some suggestions. He said that they're getting 500 members a minute, but he also criticised reform. He said they offer a message of division and blame, and they're on a road to danger. Was it? Did he say danger? So, what was your response to that, Leila?
It's the usual rhetoric from Corbyn. Yes, we do blame. We blame successive governments for the state of our country. But whereas Corbyn blames the people, he blames voters and he blames people that are angry. We just voice their anger. There is no divisiveness, actually, in our policies. We want to bring people together, and that's under the banner of putting British people first, not any other country or foreigners that come here.
Interesting, a party that's splintered away from the Labour Party, calling it the Reform divisive.
I mean, your party means we are approaching five-party politics. I wonder if Reform UK worried that might nick some of your new supporters. You support nationalising Scunthorpe Steel Plant, lifting the two-child benefit cap for British people in work. I mean, there are all sorts of policies which, bizarrely, some of Jeremy Corbyn's team might sign up to.
The difference between Reform and the other parties is that we always want to put the country first and the British people first. And I think that's what really resonates with people. And that's what they've been seen lacking. You've seen every day we hear of a foreign criminal that can't be deported because of the ECHR. We hear of people, you know, the Chagos deal. Or we hear of how much are we giving to foreign aid under the Labour Party? 12 billion or something. And that's all going to stop under Reform. We're going to prioritise Britain.
All right, well, we shall see. I suppose that's not party political, that is, I presume, but we shall see. But it's easy to talk, though, when you're not in power, as we saw with the previous government who are now in power, and a lot of that talk isn't looking so good. Thank you very much, GB News political editor Christopher Hope, and also Reform UK councillor Leila Cunningham. And don't forget, I want to hear your thoughts of the name. Jeremy Corbyn has gone out there and asked for a name for his new party. gbnews.com/your say. But moving on, French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte are taking American commentator Candace Owens to court, accusing her of launching a campaign of lies for profit. The couple have filed a defamation lawsuit in Delaware after Owens repeatedly claiming, included in her podcast series, that Brigitte Macron is a man, despite the Macrons demanding retractions. Candace Owens has doubled down on her comments, saying, "See you in court."
I think you're sick. I think you're disgusting. And I am fully prepared to take on this battle on behalf of the entire world. OK, that's what I'm going to say. On behalf of the entire world, I will see you in court.
Candice, what's happened to you, really? Is this what you're doing? Joining me now, host of the Politics People podcast, Paul Dudridge. Paul Dudridge, what the hell has gone wrong with Candace Owens? I think she had children and then something weird happened to her first child. Listen, I don't care whether Brigitte Macron is a man, even if, you know what I mean? I really don't care. As long as if she is a man, she respects the fact that I'm a woman and respects my female spaces and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think she is. Paul, what are your thoughts? What are the American people saying about this?
Yeah, well, I come down on that side as well. I think it's way too far-fetched. Every conspiracy theory now gets an airing. This is a weird thing. I take your point about Candace Owens, and maybe this is a bridge too far, but I don't understand why anybody would sue for defamation in the United States. It's such a high bar to prove defamation. You actually have to prove actual malice. They'd have to prove that Candace Owens basically doesn't believe what she's saying, because because there's enough credible evidence to prove that she is basically saying something for actual malice. That's a really high bar. People tend not to sue. They'd sue in the UK for libel or defamation, and you can see that this case actually went through the French courts, and even though the Macrons were initially successful, it was overturned on appeal, and it's not difficult to win defamation in France. And so I take your point, but it's a very odd strategy, I think, from the Macrons to pick the United States to try and sue for defamation, because the First Amendment is so upheld and so protected that you can, as long as you think you're telling the truth, as long as you think you're telling the truth, you're basically protected. And so I can't see this working out for the Macrons either.
I think Candace Owens definitely thinks that she is telling the truth. I think she's also had a lipstick. I'm quite jealous. They look great. Listen, thank you very much, Paul Dudley. It's really good to speak to you, the host of the Politics People podcast. He'll be back on Sunday. But if you are in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're off on your holidays this week, let's take a look at the weather across Europe. So, particularly hot for Italy and Greece, but further west, particularly windy for the Canary Islands and down the western coast of Portugal and in particularly the southwestern part of the Mediterranean. Thunderstorms for southeastern Spain, across France and northern Italy, but it's southern Italy and Greece that will be looking particularly hot, warmer than usual, and that heat is likely to last into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Allergy practitioner Dr. Claire Anyamasigwe joins us now. Good to see you this morning.
Very good.
Does the hot weather necessarily mean more pollen?
It does. It actually accelerates the issue. So you've got pollen from the trees, from the grass, you've got pollution, and now you've got the heat wave as well. So that concoction flares up the skin, especially around the nostrils. We're streaming, we're sniffling, we're itching our eyes. So for me, as an allergist, my practice is about advocating for plant-based antihistamines. So I think the prep starts the night before. You're washing the clothes that you've worn the night, during the day, so you're not bringing pollen into the home. You are eating quercetin-rich ingredients like leeks, garlic, kale. So you can make yourself a lovely soup. I would say use them together. If you are somebody that already eats quercetin-rich foods in your diet, you're doing a more plant-based diet, then you're ahead of the game. But if you're not and you've suddenly been hit this week, 26 Celsius is going higher every day. 16 million of us are suffering with hay fever. 3.4 million of that have hay fever and asthma. So for those sufferers, they're looking for a solution right now. I would combine the two. I would start changing my diet to match what I've suggested, and I would also do what your GP suggests.
Do any of these things, if you take them year in, year out, do they lessen do they have an impact over time and you become less reactive to pollen?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I'm really advocating for children. If we can get parents watching this to start children with natural raw honey, so find out about your local beekeepers, start spreading your natural jams.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is GB News. I'm Nana Acquia. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, the prosecution in the case against two brothers following an incident at Manchester Airport last July has given its closing statements at Liverpool Crown Court this morning. Joining us now from outside Liverpool Crown Court is GB News reporter Sophie Reaper, who has more. Sophie.
Well, Nana, here at Liverpool Crown Court this morning, we first heard from the prosecution as they delivered their closing statement. That was Mr Paul Greeny, King's Counsel, and he told the jury that throughout their evidence in this trial, both brothers had consistently lied, telling them instead to, quote, trust what your own eyes and ears have revealed to you over the course of the past 3 weeks. He suggested that if they did that, that would ultimately lead them to delivering guilty verdicts. Now, it's worth saying, of course, at this point that both brothers, Mohammed Ammaz and Mohammed Ahmad, both deny all the counts that they are facing here at Liverpool Crown Court. Now, this afternoon, we then heard from Mr Imran Khan, King's Counsel of the Defence. He's representing Mohammed Ammaz in this trial, and he spoke to the jury about the incident itself at Manchester Airport between the two brothers and Greater Manchester Police. He said that it was actually the police who acted unlawfully that day and that the three officers did not follow protocol when they went to arrest Mohammed Ammaz. He said, in fact, that for the 19-year-old, it would have been terrifying and that he felt he was, quote, going to be battered to death. Now, court has now concluded for the day here in Liverpool. We're expecting it to resume once again tomorrow morning, where we believe we're going to be hearing from Mohammed Ahmad's defence barrister, Ms Chloe Gardner, as she delivers the final closing statement of this trial.
Wow, that's a big story. We'll keep you up to date with all of that. Sophie Reaper, thank you very much. She's outside Liverpool Crown Court. Now, a cross-party group of MPs has come together to urge the government to do more to help pensioners living in poverty. They also want more action taken to confront the fact that Britain has an ageing population, a dilemma that's set to intensify over the next decade. Let's speak to the Director of Public Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute, Max Marlowe. Max, just tell us a bit more then about this ageing population and what the figures are.
Absolutely. So this comes from a select committee looking at the large concerns that Britain is facing a really serious demographic crisis. And I think what the overall outcome is they're looking for a joined-up approach by governments to help deal with things like pensioner poverty. Let's remember pensioner poverty is about 12% in the UK, fell very significantly from the early 2000s, where it was about 30%. That's come a long way because we're now spending £150 billion a year on the state pension benefit, about £30 billion on adult social care, and all these other niceties that pensioners get. So progress has been made, but we are facing a really severe crisis when it comes to A, the affordability of the state pension. We've estimated that will go bust in 2036. And then we're also facing things like the fact we're losing so many young people, whether that is to unemployment, as we saw with the tax on jobs we saw last year under Rachel Reeves, all the way through to the fact that lots of well-to-do young people are leaving the UK because it is falling apart at the seams. So there needs to be some really urgent work done by government to address some of these key demographic issues we're facing.
Yeah, sounds pretty tricky. Listen, Adam, we're running out of time. I'd like to have given you more there, but we can't. So, Adam, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That's Max Marlowe. I don't know why I was calling him Adam. I was about to call you Adam Smith there. That's Max Marlowe from the Adam Smith Institute. We'll keep your thoughts and comments coming in. gbnews.com/your say, plus the name that you would give Jeremy Corbyn's new party. He's looking for requests and your ideas. Plenty more coming up in the next hour. We'll be live in Epping as people are expected to gather for another evening of protests. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. First, let's get an update with your weather forecast.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with the GB News weather from the Met Office. Now, as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, for many it's going to be often quite dry, but there will be some wet weather around both towards the southeast and the northwest. There's a front bringing some relatively heavy rain across the southeast through the rest of today, and there's a front waiting out towards the northwest that's going to bring some damp weather later to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for the time being, through much of the rest of today, it's largely dry for most, especially once that rain in the southeast clears away. And then we do see that front edging its way in across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland overnight, so a lot of cloud here, some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a dry night with some clear skies, a few mist and fog patches, but temperatures not dropping particularly low, most places holding up in the mid-teens Celsius. Then as we go into tomorrow morning, a bit of a grey start across many parts of Scotland, particularly towards the north and west. That's because that front will have pushed its way in, so a fair bit of damp weather across western parts in particular, the rain not looking especially heavy. Across parts of Northern Ireland, a grey start here as well, some outbreaks of rain, but across much of England and Wales, a fine bright start. Any mist and fog that does develop overnight will quickly burn away, and so most places will have a decent amount of sunshine. And that's how it's likely to stay for many places. Central, southeastern parts of England may see a few showers developing as we go into the afternoon, but there will also be some bright sunny spells for most of us. Further north and west, that front edging a little bit further in across parts of northern England and North Wales, so bringing a few outbreaks of rain and perhaps a bit more cloud too. Temperatures for many will be a little bit higher tomorrow compared to today. We're looking at highs in the mid, possibly high 20s Celsius, 27, maybe 28 Celsius. A few spots of rain possible as we go into the evening, a few more showers perhaps towards the northwest, and that's kind of the theme that we take into the weekend really. Some showery bursts of rain, most likely towards the northwest, perhaps the southeast at times as well.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M8 westbound near Junction 2, traffic is affected by a partially blocked road due to an incident. Both directions of the M4 from Junction 37 Pyle to Junction 39 Grows remain closed for planned maintenance, with diversions in place. In Surrey, the M25 anti-clockwise faces a collision between Junction 11 and Junction 10, closing 2 lanes and causing significant delays. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway reports delays between Derby and Stoke-on-Trent, while Hull Trains has a reduced service due to industrial action. Please plan your journeys accordingly and stay informed on potential additional delays. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, it is 5 o'clock. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show with me, Nana Acquia, on GB News, broadcasting live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. So breaking news, wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has died at 71 years old after reportedly suffering a cardiac arrest at his home in Florida. We will get reaction to this story throughout the hour. There are fresh warnings that the police are overstretched and may be pushed to breaking point over the growing numbers of protests against migrant hotels. Could we face a summer of chaos? Ex-Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn and Zahra Sultana have announced details of their newly formed political party. Just how damaging to the Labour Party will this group be, and what is that party even called? The UN has opened the door to Britain being sued over its historic contribution to climate change. But is the UK seriously the country that should be targeted and not the likes of China and India? And Harry and Meghan's $100 million Netflix deal will not be renewed. Just what might this fresh uncertainty mean for the future of the Sussexes? All of that coming up. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments at gbnews.com/your say. In particular, I've been asking, what name would you give Jeremy Corbyn's new party? Because he actually asked for some suggestions. So here are just a few of them. Patrick O'Sullivan, he said they should call it Don't Have a Home Party. He said the House Party. Dubbing said the Gratefully Dead Party. Paul Farrow said Mick Lynch's Mates Party. And Winnie said the Fruit and Nut Party. Keep them coming, gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good evening to you. Let's start with some breaking news. As you've just been hearing, the wrestling legend and the actor Hulk Hogan has reportedly died at the age of 71. It's understood the former WWE and WWF wrestling legend was found unresponsive at his home in Clearwater, Florida, early on Thursday morning. The reports coming out of the United States are suggesting that he may have suffered from a cardiac arrest. Those are unconfirmed reports. Paramedics and police patrol officers were outside of his home on Thursday morning. These reports just coming into us, but the breaking news is that Hulk Hogan, wrestling legend and actor, has died at the age of 71. Now, demonstrators are gathering outside a hotel housing asylum seekers in Essex, despite a dispersal order, as police brace for further unrest. The Bell Hotel in Epping has been at the centre of a series of volatile demonstrations, which began last week after an asylum seeker based there was charged with sexual assault, allegations he denies. Well, Essex police now say 16 arrests have been made after the protest, which began peacefully, escalated into what officers have described as scattered incidents of violence targeting police and property. 8 officers, they say, were injured and a number of vehicles were damaged as missiles were thrown. Now, the Reform UK leader, Nigel Farage, body cam footage here of the arrests being made. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has called for the Chief Constable of Essex Police to resign over claims that officers transported left-wing counter-protesters to the scene, but Ben Julian Harrington, the Chief Constable, has categorically denied those. He says some protesters were escorted away for their own safety. The Prime Minister and his Indian counterpart have hailed an historic day after signing a free trade deal worth £6 billion to the British economy. Under the agreement, it will be cheaper to export cars to India and also whisky and Indian textiles and jewellery to the UK. The deal, which took nearly 3.5 years to agree, has also set out a plan to tackle illegal migration and also defence, climate and health. Mr Modi says they're writing a new chapter. Sir Keir Starmer described it as a step change in relations.
This is a historic day, a landmark moment for both of our countries. The UK-India deal is now signed, sealed and ready to be delivered. So it's a real pleasure to welcome you.
Right, a mother and her 2 children killed in a suspected triple murder in County Fermanagh have been named. Vanessa White, her son James and daughter Sarah died following a shooting in County Fermanagh. The 4th person, a man, remains in a serious condition after the incident in Maguire's Bridge yesterday. Police say all 4 members of the same household suffered gunshot wounds. The number of shoplifting offences recorded by police in England and Wales has climbed to a record high More than 530,000 offences were logged last year, up 20% from 2023 to 24, and the highest total since current police recording practices began in 2002. Knife crime offences, though, fell by 1% year on year. We earlier heard from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, reacting to the figures.
Well, the figures show serious violence is down and also knife crime falling for the first time for a long time. And there has been a 4-year trend of increasing shop theft and street theft, which reflects the decimation of neighbourhood policing under the previous Conservative government. But that's why we're putting 3,000 more neighbourhood police on the streets this year, and why 500 towns will get additional neighbourhood patrols this summer, so we can target those crimes that really matter to communities.
Finally, Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana have shared details of their newly formed political party, saying real change is coming. Mr Corbyn, the MP for Islington North, said the system is rigged. He's called for a mass redistribution of wealth and power. Now, an inaugural conference will take place for members to, quote, decide the party's direction, model of leadership and the policies needed to transform society. And, of course, the name of the party, which has yet to be determined. And Mr Corbyn's denied it will be the equivalent of Reform UK, but for the left.
Reform only offer a message of division and blame. All they do is say that every social problem in our society is somehow or other the fault of extremely vulnerable minorities. They are a dangerously divisive force in our society. What we're offering instead is to bring people together so we collectively face the issues of poverty, the issues of bad housing, the issues of underfunded education. So we face those issues together. Reform are a road to danger, not a road to any improvement in people's lives.
Those are your latest GB News headlines. I'll be back with more at 5:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 8 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Acquia. Now, the Police Federation, which represents rank and file officers, has claimed that policing is not prepared for a repeat of last summer's protests, as officers are deployed to keep the peace outside a 4-star hotel in London that is reportedly preparing to welcome asylum seekers. Now, the rise in tensions isn't helped by a Daily Mail exclusive that reveals thousands of migrants are using taxpayer handouts at casinos and betting shops. So is this the start of a summer of unrest? Well, I'm joined in the studio by Alistair Heath, who wrote a piece in The Telegraph criticising the government over the illegal migrant crisis. Now, I read this piece. I thought it was fabulous. And one of the I'll just read a little quote from it so that you can, at home, can hear. One of the criticisms you had was that the fact that the leader, Keir Starmer, is the worst possible leader for this time. And I quote, Alistair says he is a cardboard cutout of a Prime Minister and ideological automation at a time when the public craves leadership, reassurance and change. So tell us more about the piece that you wrote.
Yes, I mean, I think these are difficult times. I very much hope that there's no unrest. We should all hope that there's no unrest. The problem is the government does not have a serious policy or serious set of proposals to tackle the illegal immigration crisis. And I think people are starting to understand that. I mean, there are ways you could tackle this crisis, but they're very radical ways. And the problem is the government is obsessed with one thing, which is maintaining the human rights orthodoxy, which goes to the heart of its belief system. I think that's the issue. If you really wanted to try and tackle this crisis, you propose either totally reforming or pulling out of the CHR. You'd have to pull out probably of UN refugee conventions. You'd have to reject a lot of the nostrums of the past few decades, and you'd have to accept that the asylum system, while well-intentioned, is completely not fit for purpose. It's a system that worked 50 years ago but doesn't work today. And you'd come up with all sorts of other things. For example, a real crackdown on people traffickers. You'd stop putting people in hotels. Instead, you'd put them in temporary accommodation.
Or tents.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. In a humane way, but a much, much tougher way. And you'd basically say it's illegal to come to Britain through these routes. And yes, we will choose a certain number of people to give asylum every year, but not the people who come over illegally. And that would be a revolution. You'd be able to control the numbers, bring them down and so on. The problem we have is the government does not want to do that. They're not interested. They want to maintain the status quo. Of course, they'd be happy.
But why would they want that? Some people would hear you and think, well, it's costing them and us a fortune. That money could be repurposed for something else.
Yes.
Why would we want to spend
I mean, they'd very much
that?
like it if illegal immigration numbers went down, right? And if legal immigration numbers went down too. But they don't want to do anything proactively about it because their number one priority is maintaining the human rights orthodoxy, the human rights system. And that human rights system basically really limits what you can do to tackle illegal immigration. It's the reason for all of the issues we have now. It's also the reason for all the issues the Conservatives had. And the Conservatives came up with Rwanda as a way of being ECHR compliant just about, they hoped, but still trying to discourage illegal immigration. Labour, of course, ditched even that. Even that went too far for them. So I don't think they're serious. They are not really serious. They claim that they'll do everything in their powers to reduce illegal immigration, but clearly they're not doing that. They refuse to take any difficult decision on this.
But even Germany and Greece were able to, while still, serving the ECHR, Germany, Greece have got tents for migrants alongside France, which complies with the rules of the ECHR, which would be a deterrent if we had that.
Yes.
And, of course, Germany sent some Afghans back.
Yes, so clearly you could go further than the government's doing, yes.
Yeah.
Their version of, their interpretation of many of these rules is the most left-wing possible interpretation. And I think in general the British establishment has the most liberal or the most far-reaching interpretation of the rules compared to other countries. So you're right, more could be done even within those rules. So it's not only that they don't want to change rules, it's also that they want to keep the current structure, the current interpretation of the ECHR. There's a kind of Lord Hermer approach to politics, which is to give power to left-wing Labour lawyers to the blob, basically, and to refuse to do what the public really wants.
It's just shocking, isn't it? And these lawyers are earning an absolute fortune. It's become a complete industry.
Well, it's shocking, but it's part of a pattern, which is this idea that there's a ruling class that knows better than the public what's good for the public, right? I mean, that goes to the heart of the whole of the past 25 years, really, of governance in this country, which is this idea that the blob are more intelligent, better people than normal people, and that we should ask normal people what they want. And we had the Brexit referendum, and if that went the wrong way as far as those people are concerned, and therefore you should try and undo it either explicitly at the beginning or bit by bit, as Starmer's doing now. It's all part of this idea that, that there needs to be this great disconnect between the rulers and the ruled. And I'm totally opposed to that. I think that's entirely wrong. That is a thing that's corroding trust. That's the thing that's undermining the public's confidence in politics. That's why fewer people are voting. That's why people are angry. And what we really need is all of that to change. And we need an alignment. We need politicians that actually compete to do what the public wants.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Alistair Heath, thank you very much. You wrote an exceptional piece in The Telegraph. If you get a chance, definitely read that. He criticised the government over the illegal migrant crisis. In the meantime, people are expected to gather in Epping this evening in protest at the Bell Hotel. And we can now cross over live to Epping and speak to GB News' national reporter, Charlie Peters, who has more. Charlie.
Well, Nana, there is now a significant police presence at the Bell Hotel in Epping. Just look to behind me now, more police gathering here. We've seen some police officers with cameras preparing to capture what may occur later, with many protesters set to come down here. We've seen some people arrive with signs. There have now been multiple protests at this location over several weeks, and there has been also a change in the police strategy on how to handle them. Yesterday, at a press conference, Ben Julian Harrington, the Chief Constable of Essex Police, would not say if he regretted the force's decision to escort and monitor so-called counter-protesters who described themselves as anti-fascists being brought to this site, which generated a lot of hostility and sparked some violent confrontations on Sunday. They were then bussed out of the location by Essex Police. But it does seem that even though he didn't want to say that he regretted it, some changes have been made. There's a dispersal order in place, allowing the police to have greater powers to remove people if they arrive and they seem suspicious, or if they're acting in a manner which would threaten public order. So some changes there. We've also seen some reporting today about the supposed far-right elements to this protest. Some reporting suggesting that Homeland Party organisers have been central to this protest. Well, I have to say, being here for this afternoon, I haven't met any fascists, neo-Nazis or racists. I've met several concerned parents. They are the genesis of this protest. And earlier today I spoke to Lindsay Thompson, a concerned parent who expressed why she kept coming back to these protests.
We'll keep coming as long as that hotel is here, but I'm really worried about Sunday. We don't want any trouble. We've never wanted any trouble. And I really hope, I've seen so many social media posts calling for Antifa to come, to beat us, I've seen more posts calling for action to this than local groups saying, come and protest at the Bell. And I'm really, my daughter said, I'll come with you on Sunday. And I said, I don't think it's safe enough. I don't know that us ordinary people are safe in that arena. I really hope they don't come.
Well, in the last few moments, Essex Police has released some body cam footage of an arrest they made recently of one of those protesters. It shows an officer telling the man to put his hands up before being handcuffed. The man was led away to a police station to be interviewed, and so detectives could search his home. That he was wearing clothes he was wearing on July 17, the day of the incident. We've also heard from Essex Police saying that their officers investigating the actions of a small number of people who look to exploit the peaceful protest. They've now made 16 arrests. They're hoping for more calm this evening as protesters are set to descend again on this migrant hotel.
All right, Charlie Peters, thank you very much. He will keep you up to date throughout the day on that. He's live in Epping. Right, it's just coming up to 17 minutes after 5 o'clock. We can now speak to the Managing Director, the Public Safety Foundation, Oliver Lawrence. Oliver, thank you very much for joining me. So a lot of people are concerned with regard to this. Of course, the police have a dispersal order, which means that if they feel that somebody is causing a problem, they can get that person removed. I sort of think that the average person who'll go to this protest will be upset, and even Jonathan Reynolds says, I understand the frustrations that people have. So this is concerning if I were to protest, I'd be concerned that I could get wrapped up in this sort of dispersal order, even if I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, good afternoon, Anna. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I think BJ Harriting is certainly reflecting on the last 24, 48 hours of the actions taken by police in Essex. It's obviously taken very robust steps to move quickly to ensure there is no further issues of violence outbreaking in Epping near that hotel. You know, when government policy fails, once again, we ask policing to come in to support the ramifications of consistent policy failure, one of the biggest policy issues of probably the last decade in this country. And policing, as we know, has been continually robbed of funding and has been left, out in the dry with very limited resources. Now comes the time when we need these incredibly brave men and women on the front line to hold that front, to be resilient and to support us in a time of need. And we're again asking them to do more with less. So very challenging times down for policing, but obviously we're hoping that things go ahead quite smoothly. But yeah, the public have a right to protest, to free speech. There's lots of issues, but this comes down to one thing, and that's government failure, poor leadership. There's no sign of Keir Starmer talking strong about these issues. The people are making a march.
Well, of course, Keir Starmer accused everyone of being far right, which was, I think, an attempt to deter them from expressing their disquiet with the whole migrant hotel situation and the situation of the mass immigration or mass migration within this country. What do you think, if people want to protest, they should do? Because, again, I think the general public will be quite fearful of going to express their views. And it does feel as though if you are the wrong kind of protester, and by that I mean more on the left, it seems with the two-tier system that I've observed myself watching this, that those on the left who express an opposing view are usually OK. It's those on the right who find themselves in trouble.
I think now the public get frustrated when they're labelled with certain quite easy, quick throwaway comments, which I think impact all of society. I think people have a right to be concerned that there are thousands of people pouring into the country who we have no idea who they are. They are committing offences on arrival. They have completely different values. We don't know who these people are. There's a significant risk there, and I think people have a right to be concerned. I think my advice to people wanting to demonstrate their frustrations is to do so in accordance with the law. Obviously, the police will take steps to make sure everybody is kept safe. But ultimately, it's a challenging time and one that people are going to have to respect and try to voice those concerns in a respectful manner. These issues do attract, from time to time, a nefarious element. That goes without saying, and policing can deal with that. But they are very challenging times now, and obviously I just wish all my colleagues on the front line the very best of luck with it all.
Yeah, because the nefarious elements can come both from the left as well as the right. Just observing it, it seems to be that the left seem to have they seem to get a slightly different level of treatment. So as long as it's even-handed, then I'm happy. All right, thank you very much. Oliver Lawrence, he's the Managing Director of the Public Safety Foundation. Now, just a reminder of the breaking news that has come into us over the last half an hour. American wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has died, aged 71 years old. It has been widely reported that first responders responded to his home in Florida after receiving a call about a cardiac arrest. We'll bring you more on this as we get it. Coming up, the UN has opened the door to Britain being sued over its historic contribution to climate change. But is the UK seriously the country that should be targeted and not perhaps the likes of China and India? This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News. You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 24 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akweer in for Martin Daubney. And once again, just a reminder of that breaking news that has come into us over the last half an hour. American wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has died at the age of 71. It's been widely reported that first responders arrived at his property in Florida and to a call about a cardiac arrest. We'll bring you more on this and give you more detail as we get it. The United Nations has opened the door to the UK being sued over its historic contribution to climate change. They said that the failure by countries to meet their climate targets could, in specific cases, allow other nations affected by climate change to sue them. The UN is also to allow for lawsuits over historic emissions, which could leave the UK, the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, at risk of legal action. Joining me in the studio, the director of the Climate Media Coalition, Donica McCarthy. Donica, you must be very pleased now that the entire world can turn to the UK, by the looks of it, and try and sue us now for historic emissions. This is what people from your side of the argument feel. So, am I totally wrong? Did your call to say how bad we were with our emissions not draw this towards us?
What the court... The International Court of Justice issued a ruling. A number of things are basically common sense. Basically saying if nations are taking deliberate action, not obeying international treaties to cut carbon emissions, that they can be sued by countries such as Vanuatu, who are going under the ocean as sea level rises. However, Britain is actually currently obeying most of its obligations under international treaties. It's cut its carbon emissions by 50%. What we are vulnerable to is the companies like Shell, BP, Barclays and HSBC, who are investing billions in new fossil fuels. And that's where the court is saying investments in new fossil fuels could be illegal and they could be challenged in the courts on that.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, if that's the case, then all our offset emissions to China and other countries so that we don't have to produce the emissions, are we not then guilty, or China guilty, of fulfilling the world's orders, by the way, and dishing out loads of CO2?
China is also fulfilling its obligations under the international treaty. The international treaty gave China until 2030 to start cutting its emissions, and it's actually doing it 5 years early. Environmentalists around the world were actually cautiously optimistic that this year, for the first time, China is cutting its emissions. Last year, 76% of global investments in renewable energy, wind and solar, were done by China. So the real issue is what's going to happen with America. America seems to be now out of step with international law, and there will be serious consequences in terms of national law.
Nobody's going to be saying, America won't take any notice of that. I mean, let's talk about what we are owed then, because I think the steam engine, which powered loads of factories, trains, ships, the power loom for textile manufacturing, the electric telegraph for faster communication, the spinning jenny, all these things happened during the Industrial Revolution, which, of course, we were spewing out lots of CO2 because that's how we got to create all these things, and they have saved, lots of these things have saved lives. So would you not, I just find this a little bit ridiculous, especially if you're to apply it retrospectively as well, when you don't take into account all the things that this country have brought to the world.
Well, as I was saying, yes, the Industrial Revolution was born in Britain, and in the 1850s we had by far the largest carbon footprinting globally.
But not comparison to China now.
But obviously not since then. Now our historic emissions now are only around 4% over the last century. The real point of this legislation, of this ruling, is going forward, nations need to take action. So Britain has already taken action. We've cut our carbon emissions by 50%, and also we are actually we're not giving licences for new oil and gas.
That's ridiculous.
So it's new oil and gas is where it's really important. And actually, what's exciting, and I totally agree with you, poor people, whether in Britain or across the world, should not be paying the price of the rich billionaire class who have actually invested in oil over the last 10 years. They should not be paying the price. And I think what's exciting about what's coming up in Brazil is the proposal to put a 2% tax on the 100 richest families in the world,
well,
the
maybe
billionaire
they
class.
Stop chopping down the Amazon as well.
That 2% would produce 250 billion and would mean that poor people would not be actually paying the price.
I think perhaps they could just stop chopping down the Amazon. That would probably help a bit more, don't you think? I mean, there's no point charging people for things when you're actually destroying the very lungs of the planet. It's absolutely absurd. No, I think this is ridiculous, this whole carbon nonsense. And I think we might find, just like diesel, when we told everybody to buy diesel and use diesel, that we might find we're totally wrong about carbon. And I think there's still more, there's loads more research to be done.
We've got an area of commonality. I totally agree with you. We should not be chopping down our rainforest.
Well, we shouldn't be doing that. That's just stupid. But everyone knows that, even the people chopping it down. Donica McCarthy, thank you very much. Those are his views. What do you think? Should there be sort of like carbon fines going forward? And they can apply these retrospectively, by the way. That was all part of it, that wasn't really addressed properly. But what do you think? Well, now let's talk about something that's very tragic. I used to watch Hulk Hogan all the time. and we used to do wrestling in our house. We'd have 4 pieces of clothing, 1 on each corner, and then we'd all fight in a ring. And obviously wrestling, which was all acting, really, we all believed it. My sister used to sit there watching it, crying, which we loved. So joining us now for reaction to the news that Hulk Hogan has died is sports journalist Harry Harris. He was an absolute legend, Hulk Hogan, wasn't he? He looked like the Hulk in the way he was built. That WWF, he really brought that to life. And I didn't realise they were acting.
Well, no, it's something I enjoyed as a boy as well. I loved wrestling, loved watching him. And he was a legend, and he transcended into films and various other things. But, you know, how much wrestling used to be choreographed, still is choreographed, no one really knows the truth, but it is entertainment, and there's no question it's fantastic entertainment.
It really was, but he was such a star in his day. Tell us, for those who are listening and watching, why he was so good and how incredible he was.
Well, he was just a phenomenal athlete. I mean, he gave credibility to wrestling. People believed in what he was doing because he looked the part, you know, and he looked unbeatable at times. But, you know, there's still a stigma attached to wrestling, how much it's choreographed, as I said before. We've seen a great picture here with Trump choreographed. He got into politics and he got into an awful lot of trouble with some of the things he said. But people said he deserved a second chance, and he got that second chance. And he's an icon of that particular sport.
Yeah, I mean, he was credited for popularising the use of entrance-type music, and he started using Eye of the Tiger, do you remember that, as his theme song for his entrances, which, of course, it was inspired by Rocky III. He just brought this kind of energy to wrestling and this personality and character that even if you didn't really like watching fighting, you could sit and watch him.
You could, but, I mean, wrestling was a bit more acceptable than some people don't like boxing because it's, you know, there's a lot of blood spilled. People have permanent brain damage as a consequence of it. I don't think very many people got hurt too badly wrestling. So therefore, you know, you suspected a lot of it was show business and entertainment. And he personified entertainment and the show business aspect of wrestling. But you tended to believe a lot in him because of his size and his athleticism and his skill. He made wrestling into an art form. But, you know, you didn't see an awful lot of serious injuries in wrestling.
No, you didn't really, because again, I do believe a lot of it was choreographed. For some of those moves, like when they jump off the ropes and then do the lander slam and all that, you're thinking, well, any normal person would be dead by now, so frankly, it can't be a real move. But he really did bring a lot to WWF, and I think he was a 5-time WWF champion. He was just phenomenal. Look, it's really good to talk to you, Harry. That's Harry Harris. He's a sports journalist. Tragic news about the death of Hulk Hogan. That's breaking news, and it broke this afternoon. Plenty more to come throughout the rest of the show, but if you are travelling home from work or school, here is the traffic and travel update.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M4 is closed between junctions 37 and 39 due to construction, with diversions in place. The A9 northbound from Cairney Bray to Broxton is partially blocked. Drivers on the M6 in Lancashire face 30-minute delays southbound between junctions 34 and 33. The A43 northbound faces congestion, adding 15 minutes to journeys. In Kent, the M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 3 and 2 has a 20-minute delay. And on the trains, services between Birmingham New Street and Wolverhampton on Avanti West Coast and cross-country networks are disrupted. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back to GB News. Quick update on the headlines. As you've been hearing, the wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has died at the age of 71. He reportedly suffered a cardiac arrest at his home in Florida. Hogan, whose real name was Terry Bollea, is credited with transforming wrestling and helping to turn it into mainstream entertainment. Essex police are bracing for further disruption outside a hotel housing asylum seekers following days of volatile protests. 16 people have now been arrested after a series of demonstrations outside the Bell Hotel in Epping, which erupted after a man was charged with sexual assault this month. He denies the allegations. Sir Keir Starmer and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi have signed a free trade deal worth £6 billion in investment for the British economy. The Prime Minister says it will create more than 2,200 jobs in the UK as Indian companies expand here and British businesses secure new opportunities in India. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has reportedly backed hospital leaders ahead of a 5-day strike by resident doctors. And Jeremy Corbyn says his newly formed political party, alongside Zara Sultana, is to take on the rich and powerful and win, and campaign for the redistribution of wealth. He says real change is coming. That's it for the moment. I'll be back with more at 6 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello again, I'm here with the GB News weather from the Met Office. Now, as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, for many it's going to be often quite dry, but there will be some wet weather around both towards the southeast and the northwest. There's a front bringing some relatively heavy rain across the southeast through the rest of today, and there's a front waiting out towards the northwest that's going to bring some damp weather later to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for the time being, through much of the rest of today, it's largely dry for most, especially once that rain in the southeast clears away. And then we do see that front edging its way in across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland overnight, so a lot of cloud here, some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a dry night with some clear skies, a few mist and fog patches, but temperatures not dropping particularly low, most places holding up in the mid-teens Celsius. Then as we go into tomorrow morning, a bit of a grey start across many parts of Scotland, particularly towards the north and west. That's because that front will have pushed its way in, so a fair bit of damp weather across western parts in particular, the rain not looking especially heavy. Across parts of Northern Ireland, a grey start here as well, some outbreaks of rain, but across much of England and Wales, a fine bright start. Any mist and fog that does develop overnight will quickly burn away, and so most places will have a decent amount of sunshine. And that's how it's likely to stay for many places. Central, southeastern parts of England may see a few showers developing as we go into the afternoon, but there will also be some bright sunny spells for most of us. Further north and west, that front edging a little bit further in across parts of northern England and North Wales, so bringing a few outbreaks of rain and perhaps a bit more cloud too. Temperatures for many will be a little bit higher tomorrow compared to today. We're looking at highs in the mid, possibly high 20s Celsius, 27, maybe 28 Celsius. A few spots of rain possible as we go into the evening, a few more showers perhaps towards the northwest, and that's kind of the theme that we take into the weekend really. Some showery bursts of rain, most likely towards the northwest, perhaps the southeast at times as well.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You cannot break a record. Select week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 39 minutes after 5 o'clock. Welcome back. I'm Nana Acquare. President Trump might be glad to have respite from Washington after reports that he was told his name is on the Epstein files back in May. The White House has called the allegations fake news and said it's a conspiracy concocted by the Democrats. Meanwhile, reports suggest that Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell is to speak to prosecutors. Well, joining us now to discuss this is host of the Politics People podcast, Justin Young. Justin, all right, tell me a little bit more about this, because Trump, some people might say this, he's doing a Keir Starmer, escaping the US to avoid avoid a conversation. No, you're not Politics People podcast, are you at all? Tell us which podcast you do, Justin. Sorry about that.
It is the Politics podcast, which is supposed to be easy to remember, although one of the most terrible SEO decisions I've ever made in my life.
Because we have the host of the Politics People podcast before you. So it's politics. All right, so tell us more.
Too confusing.
Tell us more about this then.
Well, part of this is not really news. The concept that Donald Trump would be in an investigation about Jeffrey Epstein when they were both residents in Palm Beach, Florida, and the Upper West Side. They were both men of means and moved in similar circles. They were known to be friends, at least into the 90s. They had extensive Rolodexes separately in terms of who they talked with. That's not really shocking. What this is, from a political point of view, is right now the defining mistake of the Trump administration. They have unleashed a story that they cannot put back in the box, and it all started oh so many weeks ago when Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, put out an unsigned one-page memo saying that there was no Epstein client list and proof that Epstein killed himself in prison, two enduring goals of openness that Trump's base had really wanted. And this is just yet another drip, drip, drip of that same story.
But do people really care that much about this? Because I'm wondering, I think a lot of the American people will be more concerned about the economy, the fact that he's brought down mass migration across the Mexican border, the fact that these tariffs have given them a 20% surplus. This, and especially as you pointed out earlier, well, it's no surprise that he actually knew Epstein because they were friends or they'd spoken well before all of this, became a thing.
You know, the Trump administration and the Republican Party certainly hopes that everything that you just listed, or the trade deal that they just made with Japan, or any number of stories will be what people talk about next November when there are midterms. But right now, in July, there's not a lot going on. They passed their one big beautiful bill. That was the meat of what his promises were on the campaign trail. They got that done. If anything, it's one of the things that's kind of confusing about this, that the Trump administration itself decided that they were going to open up this Pandora's box a few weeks ago with so little that was out there to talk about, because this is obviously something that people have tremendous interest in, including his own party, which the House of Representatives has continued to push on this.
So, OK, so we hear that he may well be named on these files. There'll be loads of other people named on the files as well. Do we have any of the other names that are on there as well? Because I suspect that there'll be lots of people there who really don't want that to get out.
Well, again, that's part of the reason why this story is sort of an exercise in media literacy. Let's remember, the Epstein story has been around since the early 2000s. 2008 was when he was convicted, and there was a lot of reporting by the Miami Herald that got him to that position, that was reporting about his reputation in Palm Beach, Florida. Then it kind of goes dormant for another 8 years. And Me Too comes around. There's a gigantic reexamination about powerful men and their relationship to women, and Epstein becomes a huge part of that, especially because it can ensnare some of those other names. So when you ask, what are those other names? Well, you could start with some of the people that we know Epstein had connections with, people in science like Stephen Hawking, people in politics like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. But it's become such a radioactive topic that even the mention of anybody's name in connection, including Prince Andrew famously, with Jeffrey Epstein is something that is toxic, that immediately conjures up the worst elements of privilege, power, and obviously the sex crimes that are involved with these women. So I don't know. The Wall Street Journal reporting on it is that Donald Trump's name is in the investigation. It is one of hundreds of names, and that there are unverified reports, as you would imagine, in a investigation that has produced whatever it was going to produce in terms of prosecution toward Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein.
I'd be more interested in all the other names that are in there, and I think a lot of the people in America would also be very interested in all of the other names on there. Justin, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That is Justin Young. He's the host of the Politics podcast. There you have it. Right, coming up, if you are in search of summer holiday sun, here is the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
If you're off on your holidays this week, let's take a look at the weather across Europe. So particularly hot for Italy and Greece, but further west, particularly windy for the Canary Islands and down the western coast of Portugal and in particularly the southwestern part of the Mediterranean. Thunderstorms for southeastern Spain, across France and northern Italy, but it's southern Italy and Greece that will be looking particularly hot, warmer than usual, and that heat is likely to last into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Where Anna Riley, our intrepid reporter, is doing the toughest job in television right now, which is enjoying the sunshine. Anna.
Yes, Tom, it's definitely a tough gig for me today, I'll tell you. I'm on the Bridlington Fun Park ride here. This is the zero gravity ride. This fun park is, off we go. This fun park is right next to the sea. Oh, it goes quite quickly, I'll tell you. And people are out enjoying rides like this one. Off we go. It's a great boost for tourism, and we've been speaking to people here in Bridlington about what's so great about the sunshine. Let's have a listen.
We're on holiday. We've been here since last Friday, so we can't complain. It's been beautiful, and we're here till Monday, so we're really looking forward to the hot weather. As you can see, the sunburn.
It's lovely. It really is very nice. It's absolutely gorgeous. We deserve it, definitely.
It's good. We like the warm weather.
Yes, very nice. Loving it. Yes, like
warm enough.
Woo! Well, this ride is showing no signs of stopping, and neither is the sunshine. We're getting that heat wave at the weekend. Enjoy the weather and enjoy fun rides like this one. Get to Bridlington and get to the fun park.
Oh my gosh! Absolute bravo, Anna Riley. What an incredible piece of television. I hope they let you off at some point.
I thought they'd only do it once or twice. Bless her.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is GB News. I'm Nana Aquia, in for Martin Daubney. And once again, just a reminder of that breaking news that has come into us over the last hour and a half. American wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has died, aged 71 years old. It is being widely reported that first responders arrived at his home in Florida after receiving a call about a cardiac arrest. We will bring you more on that as we get it. But joining us now is Gareth Thompson, who runs a Wrestling Kingdom, a sports club in West Yorkshire. Now, look, I remember Hulk Hogan when I was very young, and I used to watch all of his stuff because we used to live in America, and I thought he was quite a phenomenal wrestler, but also a performer as well.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that really understood the power of storytelling and the power of character. And he was one of those first guys that really took the larger-than-life aspect to professional wrestling and transcended the sport. He was in Thunderlips as in Rocky III before he actually got to the wrestling world, and he was just starting out. So he understood the power that it had to really capture a nation and capture a people and bring people together, and he really understood that.
He really did. And also, he was the person who brought the sort of intro walking music to the whole fray of wrestling and probably boxing later on, because he would come on to the Eye of the Tiger, which I thought was very good. He was inspired by Rocky.
Yeah, and he would then move on to using Real American, and he was, quite a patriot for the US, and for all those that kind of understood that at the time he was there, he really captured the nation. And eat your vitamins, say your prayers. He was a legend to so many people.
He really was. We used to watch it. Now, how much of the sport is choreographed? Because you will know. Is it because you run Wrestling Kingdom in West Yorkshire? Yeah, so how much of that is choreographed?
We've got kids here training with us right now, and almost all of it is choreographed. It is storytelling at the beginning of the day. It's a physical sport, yes, and you do end up with bumps and bruises. And Hogan himself had multiple back surgeries over the years from sitting down with the leg drop. It does take its toll on you, but it is storytelling, it is character work, it is putting on a match to choreograph and to bring an audience in with what you do. And Hogan was the master at that.
Presumably you know the result at the end of the fight as well, or you don't know that? You've choreographed the whole thing.
Yeah, you know who's going to win. And I think for Hulk Hogan at the time, he was on the rise when he defeated the Iron Sheik for the World Championship and just rode that kind of power to the top and just main evented WrestleMania after WrestleMania. He was on top because he was the most kind of famous guy that they had. He was the biggest guy that they had. He could talk people into the building better than anybody. He had his catchphrases, he had his colours, and he was just, when you thought of pro wrestling, you thought of Hulk Hogan. Even to this day, that is who we think of.
Yeah, you do, don't you? And he did a lot outside the boxing ring as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
the wrestling ring,
multiple movies. Yeah, he was a movie star. He did so many chat shows, reality TV programs. They had the Living with the Hogans program that he did, where he let people into his life. TV series, cameos. He was everywhere, and that is what his appeal was. That he transcended the sport and he became larger than just the wrestling. He was a figure in and of himself, a brand onto his own.
Does he have a star in the Hall of Fame? You'd think he would have.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's also in the WWE Hall of Fame. He's in multiple Hall of Fames because of just how big of a star he is. And obviously, recently you've seen his political activities alongside his ability to, just as of 2 months ago, thinking of launching a new wrestling promotion himself, even now, in his 70s. And he is a problematic person. It's fair to say he's had his issues, but he was recently baptized. I believe that to be a true turn of character. He'd been unwell for quite a while, had recent surgery. So to some people, this is quite a shock. To those within the industry, it's not as shocking because he was quite unwell. But, there is so many hearts today that will be bleeding for him. And there'll be so many people.
Very tragic. But listen, Gareth, we're running out of time. Gareth Thompson, thank you very much. He runs Wrestling Kingdom, a sports club in West Yorkshire. His views on Hulk Hogan. Somebody called American wrestling the answer to Swan Lake. Listen, I'm back on tomorrow for Britain's Newsroom. But next up, it's Michelle Dewberry with Dubes & Co.
Thank you very much for that, Nana. My favourite part of that whole conversation there was those little boys launching themselves off the side of that wrestling ring. I absolutely love to see stuff like that. Anyway, look, coming up on the show tonight, we'll have the latest on the scenes outside that Epping illegal migrant hotel. I also want to look at this Corbyn Sultana party. What will that do to the landscape politically in this country? Crime stats as well, they are out today. So let's take a look. We'll have that and more in a sec.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with the GB News weather from the Met Office. Now, as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, for many it's going to be often quite dry, but there will be some wet weather around both towards the southeast and the northwest. There's a front bringing some relatively heavy rain across the southeast through the rest of today, and there's a front waiting out towards the northwest that's going to bring some damp weather later to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for the time being, through much of the rest of today, it's largely dry for most, especially once that rain in the southeast clears away. And then we do see that front edging its way in across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland overnight, so a lot of cloud here, some outbreaks of rain. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a dry night with some clear skies, a few mist and fog patches, but temperatures not dropping particularly low, most places holding up in the mid-teens Celsius. Then as we go into tomorrow morning, a bit of a grey start across many parts of Scotland, particularly towards the north and west. That's because that front will have pushed its way in, so a fair bit of damp weather across western parts in particular, the rain not looking especially heavy. Across parts of Northern Ireland, a grey start here as well, some outbreaks of rain, but across much of England and Wales, a fine bright start. Any mist and fog that does develop overnight will quickly burn away, and so most places will have a decent amount of sunshine. And that's how it's likely to stay for many places. Central, southeastern parts of England may see a few showers developing as we go into the afternoon, but there will also be some bright sunny spells for most of us. Further north and west, that front edging a little bit further in across parts of northern England and North Wales, so bringing a few outbreaks of rain and perhaps a bit more cloud too. Temperatures for many will be a little bit higher tomorrow compared to today. We're looking at highs in the mid, possibly high 20s Celsius, 27, maybe 28 Celsius. A few spots of rain possible as we go into the evening, a few more showers perhaps towards the northwest, and that's kind of the theme that we take into the weekend really. Some showery bursts of rain, most likely towards the northwest, perhaps the southeast at times as well.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Traffic faces disruptions. The A9 northbound between Cairney, Bray and Broxton is blocked. The M4 is closed between junctions 37 and 39 for construction with diversions. The M6 southbound in Lancashire between junctions 34 and 33 is congested. Northamptonshire's A43 northbound has 10-minute delays. Essex drivers on the M25 clockwise between junctions 26 and 27 face hold-ups due to a spillage. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and cross-country services between Birmingham New Street and Wolverhampton are disrupted. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 09